Something ignored, just kicking down all the doors. Guarantee you, boy, fast forward, it's gotta be real big. I gotta make it just for my kids and for their kids, just kids. That's wealth years and years. Promise my brother soon as he out and finish this bid, we finna do it bigger than anybody ever did. The odds is real big, jobs that's real big. Satan trying a little, my God is real big. Stayed up on the grind on the cards is real big. I gotta do it big, the only way that I can live.
Everyone, and welcome to the penultimate round of the IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series here from the United Kingdom, and Brands Hatch, which is going to be hosting the two races here today. We've got 4 races left in this fantastic championship right now. As I said, 2 of them are going to happen here in the United Kingdom, and we're going to be heading over to Canada, to Montreal for the final 2 races in 2 weeks' time as well. We still have a fantastic 17 teams in contention for the championship as well, with these 2 rounds to go, so the excitement is certainly building towards the end of this one. My name's Ewan O'Leary. I'll be alongside Nolan Ripple with Ryan Bauer behind the cameras here this afternoon. Welcome along to everybody who's watching on here at home tonight. We hope you enjoy the show as we're cutting down to the end of the fall season here in 2021, and when we return in the new year, you'll be seeing a whole new batch of races as well, which we're looking forward to bringing you here on RaceSpotTV. Welcome along though, Nolan, to Brands Hatch. It's a fantastic circuit in my opinion, wonderfully British circuit, classic one, and I hope we're going to enjoy the racing here today once again, and at Belle Isle 2 weeks ago as well. It's a very stark contrast, these 2 circuits. Belle Isle was very, very tight and technical. This one a bit more open, well, not more open, but certainly more flowing.
It certainly is. It's a lot more of a flowing circuit. It's a circuit that has a lot more history behind it as well. So no doubt Brands Hatch should provide us with an absolutely thrilling show here today, especially if the race at Detroit Belle Isle is anything to go by. You've had so many movers and shakers throughout all of the Detroit races, and of course most notable is the first Porsche 1-2 that was had over in race number 1 a few weeks ago. Obviously that was the first and only victory so far that Porsche have been able to claim so far in the HyperX GT Sprint Series for this fall season. So they're looking to see maybe if we could get another Porsche up there on pole, but the likes of the Audis and the BMWs being a lot more suited for this track, Brands Hatch, it might be a hard task to accomplish.
First things first though, let's have a look at the pro standings for this HyperX GT Sprint Series here, and it's Maniti Racing who are still on top of the standings after their double victory at the Hungaroring. They've been right up there, but their lead has been slashed to 37 points ahead of 5-Star Motorsport. Team RSO are also there. RSRYG Performance scored the most points at Belle Isle out of any team, so they've moved up to 4th ahead of Team RSO by 5-star, who didn't have the best of days, only scoring 73 points and falling back just a little bit to 112 points behind. But considering there's 400 still on the line, it's absolutely fine. Pretty much everybody on your screen right now is still in contention for this championship if they had a good final couple of rounds. This is the real interesting point, Nolan. Pro-Am standings, Project Dynamic, their lead has been severely slashed after the Belle Isle rounds.
And they had an absolutely devastating day over at Detroit Belle Isle. They finished 4th place in the Pro-Am standings in race number 1. Race 2 was even worse, finishing down in 5th place. So compared to the 200 points they came out with in the first 3 rounds, they came out with only 73 points to their name, and that has slashed more than half of their points away, right? We went from having over a 150-point gap all the way down to just 68 points with the drivers that, of course, they were primarily battling with the Mag Performance Junior team, scoring 190 for the weekend.
Yeah, fantastic day for them. And we move to the AM standings as well. Westwood Racing, Esports and World of Sim Racing are having a fantastic battle this season. Just 37 points separates the two of them heading into the final 4 races as well. So it's all up for grabs there. With still a good 5 or 6 cars in contention for that championship as well. We've only got 5 minutes remaining, actually a bit less than that, in Q1 right now. Don't forget, we've already got 5 teams who are qualified for the second part of qualifying already in this one, because the top 5 teams in practice all qualify themselves straight away, and then the top 10 from Q1 get themselves through into Q2 as well to make us 15 for the final 15 minutes. We've got about 1 minute and a half to go here, not long, and all the main players seem to be up there for the moment, and a couple of Pro-Am cars, even an AM car in the form of Westwood Racing Esports have managed to get themselves into the top 10 for now.
So Andreas Thiel, he'll be up there for the time being. Whether he'll be able to stay there, well, that remains to be seen. Likely still has a bit of extra speed under the Unity Racing number 8 Audi. You'll look back to Cedric Nebelsek in the 197 Team RSO machine, currently sitting 3rd place on the timing boards, the 121.173. That at the moment is 0.2 of a second faster than his fastest practice lap, which was just good enough to be on the cusp of the top 10. Here is, of course, Yannis Albert in the Project Dynamic number 5 Lamborghini, your current Pro-Am points leader after such a horrid day at Detroit a few weeks ago. They are definitely looking to see if they can potentially improve and get that Lamborghini back into victory where they know it rightfully belongs.
Yeah, absolutely, and this is the championship leader in the AM category. Westwood Racing Esports and Benjamin Opakowski is doing a very good job at the moment to get himself into the top 10, and World of Sim Racing not making it for the moment. That's going to put a real load of cars between the two teams, and that will be very useful, of course. Here is the 151, the AM car, just ahead of V-Racers as well in the 17, who are looking to get inside the top 10. But looking at the way this car is pushing right now, or not pushing, as I should say here, Nolan, it looks like Westwood Racing Esports getting themselves into 6th place now are going to get a real advantage on the start of this first race.
They certainly will. The number 87 Audi Yard LMS looking set to lock itself into not just Q2, but also into potentially the top 10 in today's race. And that is top 10 overall, which for an AM car, I will say that's not bad at all, right? We've seen some solid Pro-Am and AM performances over the course of the season. Nothing quite like that, though, thus far. So we'll have to see if we'll be able to stay there when Q2 rolls around and those other 5 cars slice their way through into Q2. And speaking of which, checkered flag flies on Q1.
It does indeed, but I do believe that everybody who's on a lap right now will be able to complete it still, and so we'll see the 172 car in a few moments' time, 17th place at the moment, trying to get inside the top 10, but sliding a little bit out of that turn where you come off the Indy circuit and onto the GP layout, which is at Surtees Corner, of course, and pulling over to the side of the road, not going to be going through there. So it's Team RSO by 5-star who take the provisional pole, I guess you could say, or the lead through Q1. Max Torg Husfeld got himself off to a very good start, and this is the perfect way for them to start, really. I know it's only Q1, it doesn't matter too much. However, they didn't have a great performance at Belle Isle, only 73 points 2 weeks ago, and so they're bouncing back with a vengeance here, and it's good to see.
And you see the Beniti Racing out just up the road, and of course Beniti Racing on a flying lap at the moment for Andreas Thiel, but they are not going to be able to utilize that lap. They were about 30 feet shy of the line when the checkered flag flew. As such, they're not going to be allowed to complete that flying lap, which is a big shame. Andreas Thiel was en route to potentially break into the 120 range.
Yeah, absolutely. There's the end of Q1. Just a word of warning, when we get to 15 minutes on that timer on the left-hand side, the guys will be able to leave the pit lane once again to be able to kind of go for this. 15 teams and 15 minutes for you to get up the order and try and get that pole position, of course. A little bit more housekeeping to get through here for the IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series before we really get into this one kind of properly. As if we haven't already. We've got the Easter egg and of course giveaway to go through here today, and there is what you're looking out for here this week. Let's not forget, you've got to remember where the races are happening as well, all at the same time. And at the end of the season, so during the final race, a link will be posted where you can submit all of the answers for all of the Easter eggs throughout the season, all 6 of them. So you might need to go back and watch a few as well, if you like, just to kind of refresh your memory. But you can submit all of those, and then that is the Easter egg challenge. So that's what you're looking out for. A bit of a warning throughout the stream to be keeping your eyes peeled for, certainly, and also the giveaway, which we have going on here this week. This is an individual thing to each race, by the way. This is not accumulated over the season. This weekend's giveaway is going to be an Alloy Elite 2 mechanical gaming keyboard, and so you can find a link in the chat. It's pinned right at the top in the chat, and I believe it might well be in the description as well, but it's definitely pinned in the chat. You can go and have a look at that and enter yourself. You don't really have to do anything other than clicking on that link and answering a few things. You can enter yourself, and you might be able to win that. So yeah, well worth having a look at that one. Don't forget as well, this IVRA GT Sprint Series is brought to you by HyperX, of course. They are the official gaming peripheral sponsor here, and do a great job as always. Make sure you go and check them out if you're looking for that kind of thing, and I'm sure somebody watching this stream certainly is. So it's well worth having a look. And they do. We thank them very much for looking and kind of sponsoring us and helping us along with the IVRA GT Sprint Series. It's been a wonderful season indeed. Just 1 minute to go until Q2 is going to begin, and we're not going to have very long to get through all of that. So Q2 is going to go past very quickly indeed. And don't forget, some of the times do carry over as well throughout this, and so if your Q1 time does stand up to the test of time, then you can go through with that on pole position if indeed that works out for you. So 15 minutes coming up, and there's going to be a lot of pressure on here because Brands Hatch is one of those circuits that's very difficult to hook up a perfect lap all in one go. So it's going to be very, very difficult for everybody, but a very entertaining challenge indeed. Looking forward to seeing how these final 15 minutes pan out.
And the first car lining up at the end of pit road, ready to go for Q2, is going to be the number 68 BMW M4 GT3. The RSR by G Performance machine sits at the end of pit lane, driven by Oscar Koper. Of course, one of those drivers that was not allowed to run in Q1 due to already being locked into Q2 thanks to the practice times. Just behind him is one of those other drivers as well, vectored by RSR's 171. And they got Full Send Racing's number 96 just in behind as well, the number 96 BMW. So you got 3 different drivers, 3 different teams, and they're all going to be looking to try to see if they can potentially lock themselves out in Q2 now. I think what is important to note here about this one, Ewan, is that the top 3 of these cars that made it through are BMWs, so we could be seeing the German manufacturer potentially having a good outing here tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we saw Audi 1-2 at the front of Q1 there with the RSO by 5-star Maniti Racing, and we actually had 3 Audis in the top 3, didn't we, with the other RSO car in 3rd. So you'd think that Audi were doing very well there, but maybe BMW is going to be the car of choice. Just to run through all 5 of those teams who got through because of their practice performance, because we weren't on air for the end of practice, but we can tell you that obviously, as you mentioned, Full Send Racing made their way through. The 69 car RSR by G Performance made it. The 68 RSR by G Performance also made it through. Pure Sims and the 116 made it, and so did Vector by RSR 171. So RSR getting 3 cars into the top 5 in practice. Very good job from them indeed. The other RSR car, the 172, qualified in 18th position, so they're going to start 23rd, you would imagine, on this race. Not the best Q1 for them, I'm afraid, but for that team to get 3 cars in the top 5 of practice has really taken the pressure off of the first part of qualifying for them, and they can really go for it now, so they're looking very strong so far.
Oscar Cooper has taken the green flag in Q2, so he'll be among the first of these drivers in Q2 to actually log a time in the second qualifying session. There is Chris Shorter at the moment, sitting 4th place on the boards at the moment in qualifying for the Impulse Race number 63 Lamborghini. And there is Oscar Cooper, currently 28th, but obviously has yet to properly log down full time. Has a time of a 2:25.504, but obviously that is also factored in the time he was waiting on pit road for all of those brief moments. So Oscar Cooper is, quite frankly, going to be able to log a lap that is much faster than that, and much more impressive as well. Currently coming up through the final sector of the racetrack. This is just coming up and over Westfield Bend and down through Dingle Bell up to Sheens, and these are some of the most crucial kinks to get right. Of course, it's so hard to go side by side with any car through, especially in these GT3s. And they can make or break a lap.
Yeah, there's no way, there's no curb on the outside of Sheen curve on the outside there, so that does make things a little bit tricky. If you get yourself onto the grass there, you can find yourself having a very large accident indeed. So only 3 minutes into the second part of qualifying here, but we're already getting the first couple of times coming through. Oscar Cooper is going to set us off with the first time with a 21.3. He's going to slot himself into 6th position just for the moment. Impulse Racing 5th place after that first lap, but Marco Jaeger already made it through in the first part. He's just improved upon his lap time quite dramatically there. Pure Sims already 2nd place. Ross McFarlane easily the best of those who got through practice. Clearly the 20 minutes or so he spent just sat in the pit lane has not it's not hindered him at all. Sometimes we do see that drivers taking a bit of time to get warmed up, but he's warmed up straight away and he's straight into 2nd place, although he's just been pushed down to 3rd because of Maniti Racing.
Andreas Thiel certainly seems to be on the move. They want to stay on that front row for race number 1, and at this rate they might just be able to do that. So Oscar Cooper now sitting 9th fastest at the moment, so not the best of runs that Cooper would have had. I think that might have just invalidated the lap when he ran a little bit wide through Westfield at the end of the Derek Minter straight for all of a brief moment there. But I tell you what, they got to pick up the pace, right? I mean, at the moment their fastest qualifying lap is about 8/10 off of what they had in practice. I don't doubt that there's more speed under that BMW, but those fresh tires, they aren't going to last forever.
No, they're not, but there's still plenty of time for them to maybe get another set if they want to. On board with Andreas Thiel at the moment. He improved on his last lap for Maniti Racing to bring himself within 1/10 of a second of the 1.98, and of course at the pole position, pushing once again here, although he doesn't look quite on the limit as he was on his most previous lap, so maybe he'll be pulling into the pit lane this time. And he does indeed, not going to be improving here, unfortunately. But plenty of time, as I mentioned, for him to get up the order here once again. The 68 car, 4th place for them just at the moment after improving. They're the 171 getting up to 6th place as well, so a number of those guys doing very well. The AM and Pro-Am cars getting pushed down a little bit. We've got, I believe, 2 Pro-Ams and 1 AM here in the top 15, and they're going to look to do the best they possibly can at this stage. But for the moment, it's 9th place for Project Dynamic. You would expect them to get pushed down just a little bit here in Q2 because some of the real fast runners are obviously coming back from having qualified from practice and so on. So their advantage is going to be a few cars in between themselves and their rivals, but a few cars is certainly advantageous. So any kind of car being in the way is advantageous for them in those categories. So clearly, the 87 having a good day so far to get themselves in 11th place right now.
And a lot of these front runners that are out there first in qualifying are now making trips down to pit lane to get some fresh rubber and get back out of the yard. We've seen that a couple of times. And one driver we have not talked about too much is Andrea Chiesa in the Man Performance Junior Team's 1111. It is so far the only Ferrari that is up in the field at the moment, and they are actually the team that had themselves that stellar outing at Detroit 1 week ago to score 190 points, and they also took the first win for Ferrari this year as well so far in this fall season for the HyperX GT Sprint Series. So I'll tell you what, Chiesa looking to repeat that here tonight. I mean, I did not think it was possible to see that Ferrari up on victory lane, but in the pro category, they proved me wrong last week. We'll have to see if maybe they can go back to back.
Yeah, maybe, and they certainly do need to if they want to challenge for the championship here against Project Dynamic. Don't forget, on the left-hand side of your screen, if you're wondering why some of the numbers for these cars are slightly different shades of purple, the very much darker purple is indicating a Pro car. The whiter number indicates an AM, and then somewhere in the middle of those two colours, as you can see with an example of the 21 car, it's kind of white and kind of purple at the same time. That's a Pro-Am car as well. So be looking out for those on the left hand side. That's how you can easily tell which car is in which category, because I know it is difficult to keep up with from time to time. So the top 15 at the moment, covered by less than a second. That is very impressive actually, considering the kind of difficulty of this circuit. It's a short one, but it's a very difficult one all at the same time. Simtech Motorsport are currently 15th position, just under a second behind, but if you go up to 13th, Full Send Racing only half a second off. It's very, very close up towards the front right now as we're about halfway through Q2. You get the feeling though, as you said earlier, that there is more time to give here for almost everybody.
So we continue to wait for these times to tick on down. There's Benjamin Openkowski in his AM number 87 Audi R8 LMS. Kronos into 11th place, a 121.795. Not good enough. The best of 397 that he set earlier today. So Openkowski has just a little bit more work ahead of him that he's going to have to put in for the Westwood Racing Esports crew, but still P11 overall in an AM car. Definitely no small feat, to say the very least. And there is Andreas Thiel. He was one of the Audis that came on down. He got some pressure over earlier on, and he is now putting down the pressure. It's about 0.06 of a second separate Beniti Racing from Team RSO by 5-star at the moment. And I can tell you right now that Andreas Thiel, they want to desperately go after that pole position, and they got the pace to do it.
Yeah, they absolutely have, but 6 tenths down on that previous lap there on Team RSO by 5 stars, so they're going to need a little bit more of an improvement than that, but it's a very small margin at the front of the field right now, less than 1/10 of a second, and you can see the pushing that is going on right now, going through Graham Hill Bend there down the Cooper Straight, which is a little bit of a shorter one, and then through Surtees and on to the straight that brings you onto the Grand Prix layout. Out into the forest we go, and the very fast right-hander coming up here at Hawthorns and then Westfield. So very, very high speed indeed. Very committed, and as I mentioned a little bit earlier, no room for error around here.
So little room for error, especially when you take into account really that third and final sector all the way up through turns 1 and 2, right? I mean, Paddock Hill Bend has proven before that it is by far one of the most difficult corners on the entire circuit, if not in all of British motor racing, right? And in these GT3 cars, even more so. We've seen it before, how easy it is for these back ends to start to come around, especially when you're braking while turning, while going over a crest and down a hill. And we'll see Andreas Thiel switch back over to the left-hand side now, diving down the hill. You go off at this corner, you're almost guaranteed to end up into a barrier, or at the very least lose 5 spots on the opening laps.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very dangerous first corner, and we're going to be seeing a bit of that a little bit later on. Ronan Academy move up into what is 6th position with a bit of an improvement there. That's Arnu Kankselis who's managed to do that one. Robin Haas looks like he's going fairly quickly at the moment, was briefly going purple. Oscar Coper also improving quite well all at the same time as well, but these guys are fairly early on in their laps, so it is difficult to tell whether they're just having a good first corner or whether they're actually sustained doing quite well, but we'll wait and see. Certainly a lot of teams here that can take pole position. Less than 5 minutes to go. Vector by OSR move up into 6th position, a team having a fantastic qualifying at the moment.
They certainly are, and the Vector by RSR driver is going to be looking to see if he can maybe get another time down, and he is just tucked in behind Oscar Coper at the moment for the RSR by G Performance Machine just up the road. And I tell you what, it has been a bit of a difficult run so far for the Vector by RSR machine, right? They've been consistently stuck behind the 68 car all throughout this qualifying session so far, and that can't be a good feeling, because while yes, you have to drive the down the straights, there's also so much dirty air that can be generated that really hampers you in a lot of the high-speed corners, and there's a great number of them over Brands Hatch as well. So no doubt for Kevin Onk, it is not an easy task trying to put that BMW a bit further up the timing order, but he's doing good work to at least keep that thing in 6th place at the moment.
I did notice a little bit earlier on, these two were actually in reverse. So the 171 was actually providing the slipstream to the red car in this situation. I think it's Copa just up in front here. And I think this is a little bit of a plan, maybe, by RSI. It looks a little bit coordinated to me, but you're right, what is the trade-off there between the slipstream and the dirty air? Well, they both pull into the pit lane now. 3.5 minutes to go. That is not long at all. It's going to be a quick turnaround, but you can guess there's going to be a big dash to the flag for everybody here, with trying to improve on their times. Here's Max Husfeld, who's held his lead, held his nerve through these opening few laps, and he does just very slightly improve there. It's still a 120.8, but it's a few hundredths quicker, and so he continues to be the pole man on provisional pole. But what can the rest of them do? Maniti Racing less than a tenth behind. Surely they're going to want to go one better.
And one driver that won't be going better is going to be that approach dynamic for Yannis Albert. With under 3 minutes left, they've had a bit of a clout with the wall, actually, out through turn number 3, I believe that was. So the Lamborghini for the Project Dynamic crew is not going to be able to go and set down a proper time. At the moment, you'll look up to Andreas Thiel now in the Maniti Racing Audi, still trying to log away a time to punch Team RSL by 5 start out of the pole position just up the road. 600ths of a second. It's a 8.52 to a 9.42 at the moment. The margins are just so fine. And you can see Maniti Racing's Andreas Thiel weaving left and right across the track, trying to get heat into the tires, because this could be his final trip around.
It could indeed. He's got the well, I guess he has only got the option for one more, really, hasn't he? So this is all or nothing here for the number 8 Maniti Racing car. They are currently the championship leaders, let's not forget, in a battle with the number 5-star Motorsport team, who I can't see on the order. Right, oh no, I can, but they're down in 24th. This is a massive opportunity for these guys. However, both RSO cars can definitely snatch this championship off of them, so everybody needs to stay very attentive here, including Mats Torgusfeld.
Oh!
He's got to be prepared for this to go wrong. What have you seen?
Maniti Racing's had a spin. They're not going to be improving and qualifying, spinning it around at a turn 3 after clipping the grass, taking too much out of the fake turf on the exit, sees them facing backwards and out of Q2.
Graham Hillbend collecting the Maniti Racing car there, and he's not going to be on pole position here. Andreas Thiel. Will it be Ross McFarlane? Quite possibly. We said in practice that the BMWs were looking very, very strong indeed, and so possibly they can really bring that to life now in the second part of qualifying for the start of this race. Impulse Racing and the Lamborghini move up to 7th, leaving nothing on the table there. Ross McFarlane through the final corner. Christy Shorter moves up. Hushfeld is preparing himself for Pure Sims to go ahead of him, because they have by 400ths of a second. Ross McFarlane has pulled it out of the bag right at the end of qualifying, and with only 30 seconds remaining, Mats Hushfeld has to go quicker through this final corner. We saw McFarlane through here leaving absolutely nothing up for grabs, and Hushfeld can't go any quicker. He saves himself from a spin. He's still going to be on the front row, but he's not going to be taking the green flag first in a few minutes' time, because Pure Sims Esports are on the pole. Brilliant lap from Ross McFarlane right at the very end to snatch it away for BMW.
What an intense end to a qualifying session. I mean, just when you thought it couldn't get any closer, McFarlane putting down the banker lap right at the buzzer. At the end of the day, you only have to have that one lap that's good, and he made it count right where it mattered.
Absolutely fantastic from Ross McFarlane. Pure Sims Esports to be taking the pole position for this one. 6th place in the championship at the moment after scoring nothing at Alton Park. It's really, really starting to go right for them now as they start along Team RSO by 5-star. Hey, Maniti Racing and RSO by Primus, also BMW versus Audi on the second row, as it is on the third, with Robin Haas and Kevin Oink as well in 6th position. 7th place is Christy Shorter ahead of Ronin Academy's Lamborghini in the 79, as well as Marco Jaeger in 9th. And then we have Full Send Racing rounding out the top 10. The first Pro-Am car is 11th ahead of the first Am car, Westwood Racing Esports, and Benjamin Oppenkoski getting himself into 12th position ahead of Thomas Cope and Andrea Chiesa, the second of the Pro-Am cars, in 14th. Then we've got Simtech Motorsport and World of Sim Racing on the next row. Marco Silva just behind them, with Adam C. Wright of BSTV Esports rounding out the 9th row of the grid. To round out the top 20, it's KSR Esports and Impulse Racing as well, with Rusty Spatulas and World of Sim Racing 51 car on the next row. Vector by RSR with the only car that didn't have a very good qualifying there for that team. 23rd for them, I'm afraid. 5-Star Motorsport, second place in the championship, but 24th for Maximilian Fritz. He is going to be one to watch in this race. He's going to be seething his way up the order. KSR Sim Racing are next to running out the top 25 ahead of VEC Sim Racing. Also Motorsport Group are next ahead of Olympus Esports. And RSR by G Performance in the 69 car, Jesse Jones, is going to be 29th. And considering the fact that they are 4th in the championship and did the best out of any team at Belle Isle, they're going to be quite disappointed with that. Certainly a lot of teams out of position. Well, I say a lot of teams, a few teams out of position here, Nolan. Particularly Maximilian Fritz is going to be one to watch in this race. I can't wait to see how he's going to try and get himself up the order at a circuit which is not the easiest to overtake at, let's be honest.
It certainly isn't. All the long straights of this track end with fast sweeping corners. There really is no hard braking zones that come off of some very long straights. I'd say, honestly, probably the two best braking points you got on track. Obviously, the run down through Pilgrim's drop up the Hawthorne Bend is, a very obvious one being at the end of the longest straight. But other than that, Druids we've seen before can be a very popular overtaking opportunity. But to do that, you need to have a solid run through Paddock Hill Bend first, and as we've seen before, that can be a bit of a tough ask in these GT3 machines. So you got so many different corners and so few where you can actually properly send one up the inside for an overtake, and that should give us quite the entertaining race. As we've seen it before, it's these tracks that have overtaken be a bit more tricky, like Oldham Park, like Detroit, where these guys can really let their skills shine.
Well, I thought that Oldham Park was going to be a bit of a follow-the-leader job. It was about 4 weeks ago now. And in the end, we had two absolutely fantastic races. Admittedly, there were a couple of incidents here and there throughout it. In the end, scoring the most points, it was Team RSO in the 1.97. But no, we had fantastic racing at Oldham Park, and we're back into the United Kingdom again, back on home turf for myself. And now very much looking forward to seeing how this circuit is going to race in the end. And yeah, still a healthy, nearly 30 cars on the grid as well. We're very much looking forward to this one. Let's not forget, an hour of racing, 60 minutes here for race 1, and then we're going to reverse the top 20 and race again for another hour for race 2. A mandatory pit stop as well, with a driver change between 25 minutes and 35 minutes into this race. Watch out for that one, because this pit entry can be a little bit tricky as well. If you've got someone following you very closely, you're going to have to be quite careful, because it is a bit of a tight pit entry at times, although we don't have that chicane on the entry, which we are thankful for, to be honest. But either way, it is still very difficult. But that's all to worry about in about 25 minutes' time. The next job for Ross McFarlane is to try and control this beginning of the race, alongside a couple of Audis, which are just behind him. Maniti and RSO going to try and take this lead off him very quickly indeed, as is Oscar T. Coper, who starts in 4th position. The Brands Hatch rounds of the IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series being held for an awfully long time by Ross McFarlane, but we finally get ourselves underway, and it's the BMW which is going to take a car length's lead into the first corner, diving downhill here at Druids and into the second turn as well. The big braking zone on this course, into the hairpin, very wide for Oscar Coper, tries to get up into 3rd place, but he can't quite for the moment. He slots into 4th. Looks like most of the guys behind have got through cleanly. Welcome back to Brands Hatch. Apologies for those quick technical difficulties we had over the last couple of moments, but we're back now with live racing and a few things to update you on before we continue any further. I guess the first thing to say is that Ross McFarlane is still leading this race by a fair amount of time, to be honest, nearly 3 seconds, because we just had a fantastic battle between Maniti, the 68 RSR car, and the 197 RSO car as well, who were all right up there, but Maniti have dropped down to 4th after that fantastic battle, and RSO getting up into 3rd. One more thing as well is that the 171 Vector by RSR car recently spun out around about here last lap around, as did and there is Kevin. who was the spin, as did the 151 World of Sim Racing car as well. They were second in the AM Championship and in the AM race as well. So a costly spin for both of those guys. But up towards the front, it had been quite orderly until we saw Maniti Racing got steamrolled by two cars in a couple of corners.
It wasn't a good run from Maniti over on lap number 8, and that's what has sent them tumbling down now out of the podium positions and down to 4th place. You're also seeing a battle between two of the Lamborghinis picking on up, but one of them is Yannis Alper, the highest up Pro-M car in the top 10, battling it out with the Ronin Academy number 79 Lamborghini at the time being as well. And this I find to be a bit of an interesting fight, right? Because if I'm not mistaken, how does a pro car battle the pro-am car? Usually, that these guys are not too concerned about fighting with cars outside of their class, particularly guys at Project Dynamic who still have that 68-point lead, the biggest out of all 3 classes of GT3 cars, by the way. And I'm a bit surprised to see Project Dynamic defended as hard as they have been up against Ronin Academy at the moment.
Yeah, the 21 team have been really excellent at that all year as well, at letting the pro cars go and trying to not get involved with the other categories, just to kind of make their own race a little bit easier. And you can't blame them for that at all, really. It's probably the best way to do it, and that's why they're leading the championship in Pro-Am. But obviously it doesn't always work because things can still go wrong out of your control. But yeah, they're holding on at the moment to 7th place. We were briefly on board there with the Western Racing Esports leading AM car. They've got a couple of seconds over V-Racers in the 17 leading the race at the moment. But this is Yannis Albert, who's driving very well in the Lamborghini right now. 7th place for him, but as we mentioned, a little bit orderly up front as things stand. I do kind of want to find out where and what happened to the second place man on the start, Mats Torg Husfeldt. He dropped down to 3rd straight away off of the start, but he's dropped off the face of the earth as far as I can see, because I'm not entirely sure quite where he's gone in the 198. He's certainly not in the top 16 right now, and I don't quite know where he would be otherwise. Just looking down the order now, and I can't seem to see him at all. Oh, 24th position, but I'm not entirely sure if we quite figured out why that is, why he's so far down.
Well, I'm trying to look around for you now, and I can't seem to find an issue except for a 1:52 lap time on the opening lap, and I think he might have been one of those few drivers that had some issues, and in fact, it was an issue, actually, for Mats Torg Husfeldt. Just noticed out now, that was only the opening lap through Westfield. Had actually a bit of a spin out of the 3rd position. That was, I think, right about where we lost our cameras as well, so that would be why we didn't manage to catch that initially, but it was a spin on the opening lap to see him down to 24th place, so like some other drivers, Husfeldt now finds them on a recovery drive. On board with Chris Short in the Impulse Racing Machine, really trying to close it up Maniti and put them down to 5th.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen the BMWs racing away at the front at the moment with Ross McFarlane 3 seconds over Oscar T. Cooper, who's got 2 seconds over the battling pair of Audis and all Lamborghinis who are back here as well. A couple of Impulse Racing cars, and then we've got 2 more Lamborghinis who've just swapped positions a little bit further down. Ronin Academy and Project Dynamic, who have exchanged their duties there, and so Ronin Academy is 7th and Project Dynamic down to 8th for the moment. But this is the 4-car battle that is the closest up towards the front right now. Maniti looking to try and get back through on RSO, and I know that Maniti weren't happy with the way they were overtaken by the 68 car. Andreas Thiel gave a big flash of the lights coming out of I think it was, what was it, Sterling's maybe, coming onto the GP, Surtees, excuse me, coming onto the GP layout there, and they got overtaken by Cedric Niblisek as a result of all of that. So, yeah, they weren't happy at all. It was a good fight to watch, but Maniti dropped 2 positions because of it, and not all of it was their fault. Nice cutback from RSO involved as well, so it was good battling between everybody. But yeah, looking to try and regain those positions once again, Maniti Racing, while being under pressure from the 63 car at the same time.
And that Impulse Racing Lamborghini has been steadily trying to close up the gap to Maniti Racing's Audi, and any moment now, you imagine might be able to have a look up the inside as well. And speaking of Impulse Racing, how about Marco Jaeger and his own 257 machine, right? You got 2 Impulse Lamborghinis looking to gang up on the Audis just up the road. And the thing is, those 2 Audis are going to be busy battling out with each other, but with these 2 Lambos being on the same team, I imagine they'd be willing to work together a little bit more to see if they can maybe get both cars through and ahead of these drivers into podium positions.
Well, yeah, let's see if that's actually going to work out for them. It could well do at the end of the day, because you find generally at Brands Hatch when one car gets down your inside, you find the whole train down your inside in a few moments. So just looking at the way the cars are formed up behind, you can see not only the two Impulse cars, we've got the two, we've got Ronin Academy and Project Dynamic are there, Full Send Racing, Simtech are also there, and then we've got a couple of seconds back to Olympus Esports, and then to some of the AM and Pro-Am cars a little bit further down. But you know, that's a lot of cars. You know, if one of these guys get pushed offline, then you could find a whole train down your inside. And Maximilian Fritz is trying to make something work right now, getting through on Westwood Racing Esports, who don't really want to be a part of this in the AM lead, but they're going to have to be here because Fritz is looking to get up towards the front, up towards Maniti, of course, his championship rivals, but starting down in 24th. It's been a good start for him so far. 10 positions made in 17 minutes. But how much further can he go? Benjamin Obkowski trying to get through on the inside of Mag Performance into turn 1, not able to. Maybe Fritz can capitalise on this one into the second turn to make his way through on the hairpin. Not quite close enough to do it yet.
Not just yet, but that Ferrari's under some heavy fire at the moment from Benjamin Opakowski, the Westwood Racing Esports machine, swinging out right, then cutting back in for Graham Hill, and Opakowski looking to see if he can put that Pro-Am car down one more. Oh, here's a lunge! That was from 5-Star Motorsport. Maximilian Fritz up the inside, and a sneak attack from Opakowski sees it go through. Look at RaceSpotTV G Performance trying to sneak through as well. That's not going to happen, though. So Westwood down a spot now. That puts it down to 14th place overall, and now we get to see what 5-Star can mount against the Pro-Am Ferrari.
Goodness, what a fantastic dive that was from Maximilian Fritz there. Full conviction to be able to get that done, and he absolutely made sure of it. Oh, Mag Performance on the grass and catching a slide there up towards Sheen Curve. Don't go side by side through here very often, and that's why. That's exactly why, because they both ended up in the grass. They both ended up in the grass, and Mag Performance around. They've got tipped around by Maximilian Fritz now, and goodness me, it's not a corner where you often go side by side. Look at the kind of angle of that rear wing on the Ferrari now. There's severe damage going on there, and this is exactly why Fritz, people shouldn't go on the inside at Sheen Curve very often. You do have to be so careful to make it work, and this is why Mag Performance making a mistake on the outside. Fritz is, it is his right to capitalise on that mistake, but you know, he didn't even hit the apex of that turn there. He's got to be a little bit more careful. Getting into the side of the Ferrari again, into the barriers. Big shame, huge shame for the 111 car.
And I have to say, I mean, the spin is put solely on Maximilian Fritz there. I mean, he went off the track, right? And I mean, you had the Ferrari who came back on track successfully. And at that point, with the Porsche still off, it becomes solely their responsibility to make the rejoin in a clean manner. Chiesa can't go anywhere because he's affected by RSR to his right side. So Maximilian Fritz just a very clumsy rejoin overall, and that's what sent the Ferrari around into the wall. They are no doubt going to be live with that, and I would imagine potentially some repercussions for Maximilian Fritz entering the season finale over Montreal in a few weeks' time.
Yeah, absolutely. There could well be some kind of penalty going on there. But yeah, as I mentioned, Sheen Curve is very high speed, of course, and you do need to be careful when trying to make us work through there. And you do have a right to go down the inside, especially when the Mag Performance car has made a mistake like that. He was fully alongside, but he's got to get the apex there on the inside. He's got to get the apex and can't run out wide into the Ferrari on the outside line, because they're both just going to end up off the road. That's exactly what happened between the two of them. And then obviously the rejoin as well you've spoken about, which has not done the 5-Star Motorsport car any favours at all. They're down in 15th. The RSR by G Performance 69 was able to capitalise on that one. They're into 12 now, having a very decent recovery drive after spinning quite early on in this. I think it was about 10 minutes into this race. So a good recovery from them, but 5-Star Motorsport are going to have to get re-past some of those cars here once again. As we go up to the battle for third here once more, it's now turned into a 5-car train with the 63 Impulse Racing car looking ever more present than ever, really, on the back of Maniti Racing. You saw the way they were almost pushing the Audi in front through turn 2 there. Chris T. Shorter on a charge.
And you saw Shorter was so close to wiping out Andreas Thiel's Maniti Racing machine as well. We're talking maybe an inch off of the right rear panel on that very good looking Audi at the moment. So I can tell you right now, Impulse Racing is wanting to find a way through. Andreas Thiel is still trying to mount a charge ball on Cedric Nebelsack, who's been doing a fantastic job on defense. for the third and final podium position, but with 39 minutes still remaining, you have to wonder for how long, right? And interesting enough, Ronin Academy's 79 entry down to pit road. I didn't think the pit window was open yet. It's not open yet.
No.
But they're making an early pit stop here. And how about this for a launch around the outside of Beniti? Oh, and they're off the track in turn 2. Theo overshoots turn 2, and he's off into the gravel.
It's too far, and he's rejoined it straight into the side of one of the BMWs there. Did he need to do this, really, being in the situation he's in? Most of his main rivals in this championship are behind him. He makes a daring lunge on the outside line, gets himself into the gravel, rejoins right next to one of the BMWs as well, you see there. Goodness me, that was quite close. And we didn't quite see how this transpired in the end, but it looks like he got through and stayed in front of that one there. And so, yeah, he's going to hold on to those points at least, but down into, well, where is he gone? 7th position now, just in front of Full Send Racing. So he's lost out on quite a few points there. He was in 3rd, down to 7th, nearly 30 points lost. And considering 5-Star Motorsport are so far down the order, you know, their main rivals, yeah, they were battling, not losing many to RSO. Oh, dearie me, I don't think he needed to do that at all.
It was a bit unnecessary, wasn't it? The lunge at the outside line. Well, I will say, you want to make the passes right. I mean, at the end of the day, these guys are here to race, so making the pass around the outside, I don't hold him at fault for that at all, but I will hold him at fault for the atrocious rejoin straight into the side of the Full Send Racing number 96. I mean, you have to be aware of your surroundings, right? And yes, there was a gap, and if he had rejoined just normally on the left-hand side of the track, no harm, no foul, but he came pretty much across the track directly into the side of him, and I imagine if your Ford was a little bit further back, a Maniti race would have come right across the line and would have been rear-ended again.
Quite possibly, it was not the best rejoin, I think it's safe to say, but either way, they've continued on their way, 7th position. We'll see if anything comes of that, but so yeah, I'm not sure if I think there's going to be a penalty there or not. We'll have to wait and see, but the battle for 3rd certainly not dying down just for the moment. Chris T. Shorter still on a charge. He's on the back of RSO now instead of Maniti. And he's brought Marco Jaeger with him, so 2 Lamborghinis on the back of this Audi right now. We saw how good they were in qualifying here. Max Torgusfeld was 2nd in this race, and these guys starting in 3rd position. Maniti Racing, excuse me, starting in 3rd. RSO were on the 3rd row of the grid as well, so Audi were doing very well in qualifying, but it seems that they don't quite have the race pace as things stand. BMW's absolutely beating them massively at the moment, and also the Lamborghinis right on the back of them as well right now.
So you got both Impulse Racing and Lamborghini still looking to potentially mount some serious charges on the Audis just up the road. And this time it will be that battle for 3rd position with Maniti Racing no longer in the way. What can Impulse Racing do? I'm seeing the yellow flag wave over at the second last corner as well. I think the number 25 Porsche has had an off, and in fact he has. So the 18 Quasar Sim Racing Hydra Machine and Joni Waters has had a little bit of a slide. Final corner, and here you can see that battle for 2nd continuing to develop.
Not a bad run through Searches there for Shorter, but it's not a great overtaking opportunity at Hawthorns in all honesty. Although he's going to have a look, he can't go through here. It's a high-speed right-hander, as the next 3 turns are actually. In any case, he tries to look again on the inside line, down through Dingle Dell. They're going to go into the dip here at the Forest and into Sheen Curve as well, where we saw that incident for Maximilian Fritz and the 111 Mag Performance car, and then maybe the first left-hander in a good while can present something, a little bit more of a braking zone, but nothing doing here, and can't quite get through for the moment, so he's going to stay behind, maybe set himself up for a move into turn 2, where we've seen moves in the past. Obviously, Maniti Racing's move didn't quite pan out very well through turn 2. Maybe Chris T. Shorter can do a little bit of a better job of that move into Druids. Can't quite do it into there either. It's a high-speed corner, and he's nowhere near close enough for a dive into the hairpin, so he's staying behind here once more. It's very difficult to overtake here, and Shorter's finding it hard to get through on this RSO car at the moment.
One that we've seen before is that Team RSO, especially CJ Devilsec, they are so good on defense, and it's understandable why they would be so good on the defense, right? They have been, so consistently running up in the top 5, having to fend off some massive charges from drivers in behind. So you have all of these little factors and these little battles that he's been able to utilize over the season. He's using all of them at the moment to keep Impulse Racing's 2 Lamborghinis at bay. Pit window is open this time by. Rusty Spatulas was in this last time by, still with World of Sim Racing as well. Well, actually both World of Sim Racing drivers at the moment. So with the pit window open, now we start to see if this battle on track could be sided down in the pit road.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very possible, because the pit window is indeed open. 34 minutes to go, and don't forget we've got a 10-minute window between 35 minutes to go and 25 minutes to go for you to get yourself down onto pit lane and change your driver as well. Rusty Spatulas have already decided to do that one, and as have a couple of others, but yeah, we've got, this looks like the 111 car, doesn't it? Just up in front with the wonky rear wing there. Anyway, Marco Jaeger still out there right now, and you can see World of Sim Racing have also made their pit stop already, but lap traffic, it's not a very long circuit, it's a difficult circuit to overtake up though, so a bit of cooperation from lap traffic is going to be needed, and you're not always going to get it, so it's going to be a pretty big factor in this race, I would imagine, especially in the second half, because we're already seeing.
Now you can see up the road, that is one of the World of Sim Racing BMWs. It looks like an Impulse races up the inside of RSO at turn 4, and the number 63 is through. Just up the road is Marco Pereira for the World of Sim Racing 51 BMW. That's lap traffic. Here comes Devilsec trying to fight back. He squeezes the left-hand side though, and that's all the way to the left-hand side. A bit of a naughty block from Shorter, almost forcing Devilsec off the circuit. Devilsec trying to go back up the inside. That time around through Westfield. Nothing doing though, with the 197 Audi R&LMS in the battle for third. So now RSO finds himself in a bit of an Impulse sandwich. Oh, and Pereira off the road. That's the BMW going to rejoin safe and sound. No further incidents for the cars behind. Project Dynamic off in the background loses one to Andreas Thiel of the Mini-T Racing Audi.
Yeah, that was because the BMW didn't really have much control over the car going through there, because it was on the grass and the gravel, and so Project Dynamic had to get out of the way to avoid a bit of an incident there. So Maniti and Full Send Racing both get through there, but in the Pro-Am category, Project Dynamic have a huge lead as things stand. I don't actually know if there are any other Pro-Am cars in the top 20 at the moment. That's how good they're doing. It's the 69 car. Speaking of cars going well, going fantastically at the moment with a good recovery after a poor qualifying there. Just looking at the kind of Pro-Am order and where the 111 has found itself at the moment. Yeah, I think Vector by RSR might be the only other Pro-Am car even in the top 20. So Project Dynamic doing a very good job at the moment, although yeah, we'll have to wait and see how it pans out for Yanis Albert. Good avoiding driving though, because you'd much rather run off into the grass and gravel very briefly than end up spun around or involved in an incident, especially for a car with such a lead like this one.
And you see as well the Project Dynamic Audi trying to close up to the back end of Full Send Racing's number 96 car. These Lamborghinis, they really excel into third and final sectors, where they can close out so much of the BMWs thanks to these higher speed corners and kinks that they're aerodynamically more suited to cope with. But it's always those long straightaways that immediately follow that give all the advantage to the BMWs, right? Because they're able to use that power underneath them to push through and be able to carry some more top speed in. And there is Project Dynamic, I believe the leading Pro-Am driver down to pit road this time by. Will Yanis Albert be going for the driver's swap? Oh, no. Misses pit road. Oh, and heads up. One of the Impulse Lamborghini's getting tipped around in, I think, turn 2.
It was Chris Shorter who got tipped around by the RSO car. Cedric Nibusek there going for a dive at turn 2, and he might well not have been quite far enough alongside. It's going to be difficult to tell here. Was certainly a dive from the Audi, but was it an unreasonable one? We'll look from the air here to really decide, and this is going to be a good camera shot as long as the trees don't get in the way. That is a problem around here sometimes. It's a very late one, and he doesn't look like he's quite getting the apex there either to me. It looks like he was going to miss the apex if Shorter wasn't there, and that may well be pinned on Nibusek, that one.
Shorter's going to be livid with that one. I mean, he went through all that effort to pass Nibusek cleanly, and then just gets done down and dirty like that.
Yeah, he's going to be fuming, and some would say rightly so. The Simtech Motorsport look like they've dropped a couple of places to the 171 and 87. Full Send Racing dropping down as well. So what's happening to those guys? They're not in the pit lane. Oh, speaking of pit lane, Team RSO just getting in there. And so they nearly got rear-ended by the impulse car of Marco Jaeger, who was flashing him coming out of turn 2 because he wasn't happy of the treatment of his teammate there. You saw going on at the moment, loads of cars in the pit lane having incidents right now, so difficult to keep up with at times, but we do know that Ross McFarlane is still leading this race by a good distance. Just behind him, it's all kicking off.
You mentioned, of course, guys, a Simtech falling down the order as well as Full Send Racing. Well, it was an incident with a lap car that collected all 3 drivers. It started all off with the number 57, I believe, on the engine at the very fast right here. You can see just at the top end there, and that collected the 96, who eventually collected the number 7. So that's why all 3 of those drivers all crashed together at the apex. They also have significant damage, especially the Simtech machine, who's got almost no rear wing anymore at the moment. So you got so many of these various struggles that are starting to pick on up here throughout these drivers, and it's the fatigue that starts setting into the track like this. It's very hard to be fast consistently around here, and unfortunately for a lot of these guys in the lead pack, it seems to be more lap traffic that causes them to get close and have these incidents.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems to be the case. I did mention it was going to be a problem, and throughout the pit stop window, it certainly has been involving on or getting involved with different battles, and even not doing anything that you would consider to be outrageous, but just kind of just being there is a little bit distracting for everybody. So yeah, it is difficult to be a lap car around here, but either way, we've seen minimal incidents, although that one there, hopefully we'll get a look at that sooner rather than later, but yeah, that one there seems to be a disappointing one, certainly for some, as Marco Jaeger is into the pit lane right now for Impulse Racing. The other car that was spun around by Chris Shorter also staying out just for the moment in 4th position as things stand. So yeah, let's wait and see on how it all develops. Looks like most people are looking to stay out as long as possible and then come in right at the end, to be honest, which might well be a safe thing to do. You don't want to find yourself in lap traffic and behind cars that you don't want to be behind, because you'll get stuck basically. But most of the cars now are having made their pit stops. We're getting towards the end of the pit stop cycle with only about 2.5 minutes to go within it.
And product of the Project Dynamic, number 46, Porsche having a bit of a slide all the way out through Westfield. Potential content battle for 14th with the RSRBG Performance BMW in the 96 as well. And she is still just came onto the circuit a few seconds ago. So this will be a bit of an interesting one here for these guys. So you got so many major incidents picking up, where you got the 3-car crash about a lap or 2 laps ago between the 96, 51, and the 7, and then you have the 46 as well that just went off as well in the last well, in this 3rd to last corner. So it's a bit of a tough situation that a lot of these guys find themselves in, right? It's the tight nature of the track. It's been catching out so many people tonight, and it was surprising to see more of these types of incidents at Detroit a few weeks ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I was expecting that, but it seemed to go fairly well at Belle Isle a couple of weeks ago. But here at Brands Hatch, things are starting to kick off. Obviously, 18-second lead for Pure Sims Esports at the moment is a little bit artificial because of the pit stop cycle we are within right now, and you can see the order is changing around unbelievable amounts. So it is difficult to keep up with at times. But either way, Oscar T. Coper has now been into the pit lane himself, and so he'll be changing driver, and has indeed done so to Sean Campbell, who's got into that car. Matt Husfeld has not come into the pit lane yet, but Impulse Racing in the 257 have. Thomas Hagelstein is into that car, and has still in the 19, not still in the 197, because Nibusek started the race for them. Rudy Knopfel is in the Maniti Racing car now as well, as Ross McFarlane finally comes in. The seconds are ticking down. He hasn't got very many remaining, so these guys must come in here. Impulse Racing and Team RSO will also be in here, as will RSL by no, they won't, just because Sean Campbell's in that car. But the top 3 will all be in here, and the pit stop window will finally be over. We can finally see where everybody is in a very, very chaotic pit stop window.
So with all of this in mind, it looks like things are starting to calm down a little bit out there on the course. So I think we might be able to get a look at what happened in that major three-car incident. This was all the way back on lap 22, right? And this is what caused the Full Send Racing's 96 as well as the Simtech Motorsports number 7 car to both be dumped out of not just the lead, but in fact the race as well. For Simtech Motorsports, they have retired the car. Oh, there was an Impulse Lamborghini just off, just behind them. That was the incident we took a look at earlier already, where the Team RSO Audi got turned. This happened a bit further up the road, and this was coming all the way out through the very long back straightaway, and it was up into Hawthorne Bend when all of this happened. It kicks off with the World of Sim Racing, number 51 BMW is a little ways up the road. He's going to drop it on corner entry even, and he's going to slide back across the track out of control and clean out the number 96 Full Send Race machine. So into this corner there, you can see the machine getting spun around just up the road from him.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just midway through the corner for some reason, just completely lost it there. And here we go. Just, yeah, trying to keep it under control, but couldn't quite. And then spinning across the road. Simtech are going to be quite annoyed by that one, actually, because they thought they were in the clear there, but it turns out they actually weren't at the end of all that. So a bit unfortunate with the World of Sim Racing and Full Send Racing getting involved, but I think Simtech Motorsport maybe have a right to be a little bit annoyed about this one. World of Sim Racing, yeah, maybe shouldn't have been. I understand trying to get off the road as quickly as possible, which is a good idea sometimes, but not quite in that situation, unfortunately.
And it's crashes like that are so easy to happen at a track like Brands Hatch. The track is only a couple of lanes wide, and you still got the battle shaking up all over the place now that the pit window is starting to cycle through. It has closed, so everybody has come on down for their pit stop. So the way it sits now is how we can expect it to sit throughout the majority of this race for the time being. There is still the battle between third and fourth place. You're watching now. That guy swapped hands, actually. Impulse Racing and Thomas Hagliston had found their way up the inside a couple laps ago. RSO passed them right back, though, one lap later. That's the way it has sat ever since. Once again, Robin Haas now in the car for the 197. Doing good work to keep the Team RSO Audi up in front of Hagliston in the Impulse Racing Lamborghini.
Yeah, absolutely. So Pure Sims Esports with Eric Grover currently leading this race by 3 seconds ahead of Sean Campbell. Now, if you remember back to Barber Motorsports Park, Pure Sims versus RSR was a really fantastic battle, and in the end, only 9 points separated them throughout the round. I think it was RSR who managed to take the victory overall over those 2 races in the end. But Oscar T. Cooper and Eric Grove had some fantastic battles in that race. And it looks like Pure Sims and RSR are going to be fighting it out again. Unfortunately, in the championship, they are 6th and 8th, so a little bit adrift right now, and I'd be very surprised if they were able to get anywhere near Maniti in this championship. Unfortunately, however, still picking up good points right now, and with only a 3-second margin, the race for the race win is certainly not done yet.
Certainly is not, and we're in that second half of the 1-hour race, so 22 minutes remaining. You have to wonder how long it'll be before these battles start to go into overdrive, right? I can already imagine that Hagliston probably is not feeling terribly pleasant about battling with the Team RSO driver, especially since it was Nebelset that took out his teammate just a little while ago to bump the 63 machine all the way down the order into what is now 6th place. You wonder if he might not be willing to fight the RSO Audi all too fairly. I think it's worth saying after that, because usually we got teams like these at the same cars, they tend to stick together. Here's the battle for 8th place, by the way. This is between RSRG Performance and the 69 car going up against Project Dynamics Lamborghini once again, still in 7th.
I think that might well be a new livery on the 69, actually. It doesn't quite look the same as it did before, but either way, just pulling onto the right-hand side. I think Project Dynamic are very much almost damaged by the fact that by the incident that they had at the penultimate corner a few laps ago, and don't want any part of any pro battles at all. They've found themselves in a nice bit of clear track space now, and so they'll be able to get on with their own races. Vector by RSR trying to get through on the AM leader. Westwood Racing Esports just having a clean race, are back inside the top 10 again here, and they've got a queue of pro cars behind them. 3 very fast pro cars as well. The 171 Vector by RSR car has been strong all season, although they've not had the best race results after a number of bad luck moments and so on. The second place guys from qualifying, RSO by 5-star are behind them now, as well as 5-star Motorsport second place in the championship. So 3 very fast pro cars behind the AM leaders, and they do have to be careful here.
Of course, Lowendick was running third place before he spun around by action. I believe he got spun around by one of the other Pro-Am cars earlier on today out of third place. And Tom Rimola thinking about a move down the inside of one, but 2 into 1 doesn't fly, so to speak. So Lowendick still trying to find a way past Tim Spencer, who I will say, the West Racing Esports Audi is not really doing these pro cars any favors. It's back at Lowendick right up into Max Riedmuller in the number 198 Team RSO Audi R8LMS. This time all over the back end of Westwood. He's going to move at some point if he's not too careful. So Lowendick's going to have to defend coming up down the hill and up in towards Hawthorne Bend, and both pro cars going to go through. Spencer finally, I think, gets the message and backs out to let them have it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a smart decision. Maximilian Fritz trying to follow them all through as well, and he's driving on his own here today, by the way, at 5-star Motorsport, using their one and only pass to use only one driver throughout the afternoon. You get to do that in one of the 6 races in a season. Well, I'm not sure actually if it's one of the 12 throughout both seasons, or whether it's just 1 out of 6, but either way, you can definitely do it once. And so Maximilian Fritz is deciding to do it this time around, and he's into 11th, but that's actually 10th in terms of points, because obviously Project Dynamic don't score pro points, they'll be scoring Pro-Am points. So at the moment, 37 points collected for Maximilian Fritz, but rather disappointingly for them, 66 being scored for the for Miniti Racing right now. So a 29-point loss for Maximilian Fritz. Considering they started 24th on the grid, that's not bad, but it's still a bigger loss than they would have liked at this stage in the championship.
You are now on board with Hagglestein, still trying to get those few extra very crucial championship points to see if they can maybe work up 1 or 2 more spots in the standings before season's end. And they're still trying to work on the Team RSO Audi just up the road from them. And Beniti Racing's Rudy Nutfeld started to close in the gap behind. You see just at the left-hand side, the tail end of the shop, the white, green, and black Audi R8LMS has been steadily closing them on up. Of course, Beniti had their own struggles very early on in this race, and they're trying to push their way further up to the front of this thing. So Hagglestein in the mix of this as well. Robin Haas is still looking to work through as well, and trying to hold on to that third place coming to the final quarter of this race. And Robin Haas is going to be having to work so crucially throughout the rest of this race if he wants to hold on to that third position. Take a look at a replay from what happened just a little bit earlier ago. This is for the Olympus Esports number 64 having a spin through turn 3. It hasn't gone for Olympus Esports way it has it so far, even. That's the 3rd spin they've had in that corner this race already.
Yeah, it's not been their day, unfortunately. We normally see the other Olympus Esports car actually fighting for top 10s. You can see Lubov, also, oh dear, I shouldn't have attempted that name, sorry. But the 46 car, anyway, in 16th position right now. They always do a fantastic job. Lubov alongside Thomas Cope, the pair of them, there they are, in 16th position at the moment. Didn't quite qualify as well as they could have done. However, I do actually fancy them both for a good result in race 2 here, because they're going to get the reverse grid. Obviously, the top 20 get reversed. They're going to be starting about 5th if the race ends as it is right now, and that's a strong team to be starting in the top 5, certainly.
It's been a solid run for them thus far in this one, and you can see still trying to apply some serious pressure in that battle for 9th place on Max Riedmuller now. Back past Ted Lowendick as well, so the Vector by RSR 171 going to be trying to find a way through, but with how much Team RSO by 5-star was applying pressure to the back end of Lowendick, it's not going to be the easiest of runs, to say the very least, for them to have to work their way throughout the rest of this race. Here's another battle further down the order. We haven't mentioned about the guys outside of the top 15 all too much, have we? And let's give them a little bit of love, why not? I mean, the battles will be going on up and down throughout the track, but usually it's the ones further up we've been paying attention to, well, because they usually mean a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. The 151 tagged on the back of this, by the way, is an important car because they're currently 4th in the AM category. The 63 is
sorry, but yeah, I was going to say, I was just going to mention the Impulse Race 63 having an incident, potentially with lap traffic, as the Olympus Esports Ferrari stopped at the same place.
Now, yeah, they could be connected, possibly. This, I think this is them getting going again. Oh no, sorry. Oh dear, Ponomarenko going off, and in their avoidance, or attempted avoidance, Olympus Esports hit the barriers as well, and that's a dangerous place to try and get going again. It's the 64 Olympus Esports car, here it is, on board with Daniel Merchant. We just saw go off the road. He was having his own accident, actually, and trying to maybe a little bit distracted by Ponomarenko getting things wrong just up in front, so slightly separate car incident, although maybe interlinks very loosely.
I think what happened was Impulse Racing just ran a little bit too wide onto the grass. That much was obvious. We could see that. But Olympus Esports, excuse me, they actually clipped the inside curves that understeered them wide onto the grass. So that's interesting, isn't it? Two very unique incidents at the same corner with cars on different laps ended up not being related whatsoever. It's interesting how that can tend to play out.
Very bizarre, I have to say. But they're both back going again. Ponomarenko is in. Oh goodness, where is he? He's down to 14th. Ouch! Yeah, that's a more damaging spin than I initially realised, actually. So down to 14th. Vladimir Ponomarenko is a long way down, I'm afraid to say. But he's still in the race. That's the main thing. As we go to the battle for third, the two BMWs out front have been absolutely formidable in this race. Only 1.3 seconds between them, but they've got 15 seconds on the field. A really great result for Pure Sims and RSR by Primus, no matter what happens between the two of them. And I feel like we are going to have a fight in the final 14 minutes between the duo. I was just going to make a point briefly, by the way, about the 151 team at World of Sim Racing. We did see them briefly on the back of that train outside the top 20. However, the problem that they do have at the moment, I think they're 4th or 5th in the AM category. I know that Westwood Racing Esports are leading that one in 11th. BSTV Esports look like they're in front of them right now. So are V-Racers. What about everybody else? Rusty Spatulas are a Pro-Am car, so I don't have to worry about them. So 4th place for World of Sim Racing at the moment. 27 points being lost by them as things stand. And as I mentioned, with the 5-Star Motorsport team in Pro as well, it's more points than you can afford to be losing with this amount of races to go.
Especially in a gap so close as just 37 points entering this race, especially for the leaders, right? I mean, you cannot afford to be losing any kind of points up to the guys in front. If you have more than a 100-point gap coming into the next race, you're basically guaranteed a race win overall. So still a lot of work to be done for 5-Star. They're going to be having to work desperately to try to close in that gap over these last few races.
Yeah, they are indeed, but let's see if they can do it. Here is the battle for 20th I was speaking about a couple of moments ago. Both pro cars up in front of this AM Championship contender, so not ideal for them at all in World of Sim Racing. Where are the next car? V-Racers are a good few seconds on up the road, so not good for the 151 team at all. They are not looking very strong for even a podium in this race, and they would definitely need those extra 8 points if they were to be able to get on the podium, but it's not looking likely just for the moment. The battle for the lead is only 1 second at the moment. Sean Campbell is chasing down Eric Grove, and I feel like there's going to be a big fight between the two of them towards the end. Just less than 12 minutes remaining. There is the BMW in question just up in front. There's a bit of lap traffic. The three we just saw up in front are probably going to be caught by the end of this race, so it's going to be a very difficult situation for the top two.
Last lap by Sean Campbell was about half a tenth, I think 600ths or so quicker than Eric Grove just up the road, and now Grove is caught up to lap traffic in the form of Stefan Mode in the VC Simmers and Rouge machine. So this is not going to be good news for Eric Grove. The VC Simmers machine going to pull over to the right-hand side and allow Eric Grove through. Last time by Gray lap time was 122.091 for Grove. It was 121.9 for the 68 machine of Sean Campbell at the moment. So that gap of the lead definitely closing in is one thing to look out for as this race goes along. Even closer, though, is this battle for 11th, 12th, 13th. Impulse Racing looking for the inside. Impulse Racing up the inside at one of the Kings, and that will send the 256 up into 12th place. I have to say, I think the owner kind of gave that one to him.
Well, yeah, there was more space given, and certainly it was more successful. That is the kind of move that you can make at Shin Curve there. If you get the apex right and there's a little bit of cooperation from the guy on the outside, then it can be a good move. It was helpful as well for their teammates in the 63 car. Vladimir Ponomarenko trying to gain pro positions back once again after his spin. We saw at Surtees a couple of laps ago, so now Full Send Racing are right in front of him, and he can have a go himself. Just over 10 minutes remaining, and Campbell is very much closing this margin. He is gaining 10th by 10th every single lap. It's not massive amounts of time every lap, but there's so many laps, and just chipping away a few tenths each time is really helping him right now, and the pressure is going to start to build.
That it certainly will. You have to wonder how long it'll be before that battle really starts to develop, right? Because every 10th, that draft becomes more and more powerful. And here you can actually see the gap times fluctuating, right? Gradually closing in. Sometimes he's been a bit quicker. Sometimes he's lost a couple of hundredths. Overall, though, definitely starting to close in that gap. So Sean Campbell will be all over the back of Eric Grove before long, but I'm looking over at the Westwood Race Esports Ambition at the moment, who has got a face full of Impulse Lamborghini just in behind. It's not an easy run for these guys in the battle for 11th and 12. You can see Spazzer having to do everything to fend up Yang and Tempwell just in behind for the 256 Lamborghini, almost getting taken out, and Flashlights furiously saying, "Get out of my way." Knows that's an amp car in front of him that's holding him up, and backing him right back up into Leon Erger again.
Here we go. He's going to pull to the right, left-hand side here, and wants to let them go without losing too much time himself, because he's only got a 5-second lead in that category. So down the inside go all three cars, and he lets them go, which is a very good decision. And now Impulse Racing might have to try and let these guys go as well. However, let's not forget that Racing are in a massive Impulse Racing sandwich right now, and so Ponomarenko really wants the 256 to stay in front here so that he can have a go at Full Send Racing, get through on his teammate as well, make the double overtake, and then he can get a little bit of help later on. So having a teammate in this battle, very, very helpful indeed for Ponomarenko. Might be able to use that to his advantage as he gets a good run off of Surtees into Hawthorns. He's very close indeed, but he's not going to be brave enough to make the move here, I don't think.
Backs off. That's a very wise move there, right? You know, just taking your time, biding your time, making sure that you're going to be there to battle this one out in the closing minutes. Under 10 to go, 8 minutes left on the clock. So this is going to be one battle that will continue to develop throughout the remaining few laps of this race. However few there are, I'm looking at my own timing screens, estimated 6 to go at the moment on the boards, and that is 6 more laps that Sean Campbell will have to try to get past Eric Grove. That gap all closing still 0.2 of a second. Campbell is there and he's ready to pounce.
He's absolutely there, and I believe there might well be 5 laps to go at the end of this one, so it's going to be very, very difficult for Eric Grove to hang on, looking at the way the 68 car is behaving right now, almost pushing him up through the hill there across Shin Curve and into the penultimate turn now. He's going to have to hold this one together. Remember, he couldn't quite manage it at Barber Motorsports Park. It was a second and a third on that day for him and Pure Sims Esports, because the 68 team were just a little bit better and they were able to run out winners on that particular round. But what about this time? Are they going to be able to claim a race victory here, Pure Sims Esports? Neither of these guys are really contenders for the championship. Obviously, a really strong Brands Hatch round here would stand them in good stead, but I don't think they're going to be challenging the likes of Maniti this season, so they can both go all out for the win here.
And that gap just fluctuating around 4 to 0.3 at the moment throughout each of these corners as the gap ebbs and flows to the point now where Sean Campbell doesn't need to close up. He is there. He just needs to be able to get close enough with a good enough run out of these corners to be able to properly mount a charge. Will there be enough this time up into Hawthorne? Don't think there's going to be enough space. The straightaway just not long enough. But Campbell will be able to continue to close that gap in as he starts to dive his way over the top of the hill, out through Westfield, down Dingodale, and up through Sheens. Maybe if he could get a good run out of Clark Curve, could make a pass up at a Paddock Hill Bend, but that would be a bit of an opportunistic look.
It would indeed, but you never know. There could well be a bit of a move here. You never know. Into the final corner. Just under 6 minutes to go. I actually think there's going to be 5 to go here. looking at 5 to go now, by the looks of things. They're really clicking these laps off at an incredible pace, and that's not what Eric Grove wanted to see at all. He's going to be under real big pressure throughout the entirety of these final 5 minutes or so. And this time, is the run good enough? No, it is not. Looking up into Druids, not able to do it by the looks of things, and staying behind but a little bit wide. But into Graham Hill Bend they go, nose to tail here once again. It's difficult to overtake, and the pressure is going to tell towards the end. If this move is going to be made, it is going to be an accumulation of pressure more than anything else.
You saw right there, Sean Campbell actually had to sacrifice his line coming around through Surtees, and that compromised the run down the straightaway. If he didn't do that, though, would have ran over the Pearson's car and would have actually taken him out as well. That's obviously not the way you want to see the battle for the lead to end, and Sean Campbell is a more civilized driver than that, right? He wants the battle, but he wants to make sure the battle is clean. So if he is going to take that lead away, it is going to be fair and square. Eric Grove looking to defend here, coming up through Sterling's. Will we see a pass here? Doesn't look like it, and not a good enough traffic run all the way out through Clearways down to Clark. So again, Paddock Hill Bend remains one of those corners that you might have to make that very bold lunge, but the problem is you just can't stay close enough to the back end of the rear wing through Clark Curve down the Bradford Straight to be able to make the move.
Yeah, not for the moment as they go through turn 1 once again, but not close enough. Eric Grove is defending well here, although he hasn't had to defend the inside line too much so far. There was a little bit of a dart to the inside there, kind of triangling off the corner a little bit, but not bad, not too much of a defence, not hindering his lap time too much as they run towards Surtees now, and off of the Indy layout onto the Grand Prix layout. Maybe there's a run here for the RSR car into Hawthorns, but once again, it's not a great overtaking opportunity. The straight not quite long enough. It's going to be difficult, but Eric Grove is thinking about defending here. He's certainly getting into his head here. Sean Campbell is getting into Grove's head right now, and it's very, very difficult not to just mirror watch in this situation when you Grove.
Oh, it's so wide that time through Westfield. Campbell taking every last inch of the astroturf that he can manage, and out through Dingledale, and of course through Sheens as well. The gaps are just so fine at the moment for Sean Campbell. I mean, he is right there. He can see victory, but he has just not been able to get the run he needs to close it on up. He might be trying to pressure Eric Grove into a mistake, but he's closer this time than he ever was down the Bradford Straight. Is he close enough to have a look? It's close enough to put Grove on defense, and already Campbell looking for the outside line. That allowed him to get the momentum out of turn 1. Right, goes over under, maybe into turn 2. Look for the outside, lunges for the outside. There's Campbell going over for it. Not going to happen this time by that pass of Isaac Barkley, who was stopped in the gravel in turn 2 as well after a bit of a spin for the cars on the Hydra machine. But this battle for the lead continuing to build. This time by out through 3, maybe around the outside as Sheens, and down the Pilgrims drop through the straightaway. Not going to happen this time by Von Hawthorne, certainly there.
Oh, this is cutback after cutback here, and continual crisscrosses, and maybe one of them is going to count here for Sean Campbell. It's more defending. Into Hawthorns they go. Pure Sims on the inside, RSR on the outside, trying to make it work on the outside line. Sean Campbell gets the door slammed in his face. He didn't go for the cutback in the end. He went for the spectacular. He went for the move around the outside. It didn't quite work out. Eric Grove lives another day, but he's still got to live for 2 more because we've got 2 laps remaining. We're just under 2 minutes remaining in this race. He goes a little bit wide through the penultimate corner into the final one. This race is absolutely on. There might well be another opportunity for Sean Campbell here.
Still 2 laps to go. That is still more than enough time to get that pass done. He is there. He knows he can make this work. He's just got to get a run that's good enough. He hasn't been able to do that so far. Bouncing over the curve of Paddock Hill. Oh, that turn by Campbell clips the gravel, but keeps his foot in and then manages to wrestle that car back online. Loses almost no time up to Eric Grover, the Pierce Sims Esports machine. And now, as Sean Campbell gets set to set up Eric Grove for a potential last lap pass, 1 minute going to be remaining in just a moment here. But of course, there's still going to be 1 more lap to go after this one. They will make it back, I'd imagine, before the clock expires. So what can Sean Campbell do this time? Through Pilgrim's Drop under the bridge and up to Hawthorne. Once again, Grove defends. Campbell trying to stick with it, trying to stick in the draft, and trying to just make that look for the inside, but this time not close enough, testing the limits of the track.
Nice defending there from Eric Grove. He initially went to the inside there to cover off the move, but once he realised that the RSR car was only playing with him, getting into his head, he pulled back to the racing line again, and it really benefited him through Hawthorns. It's protected him around the back of the circuit, through the forest, and out towards back the Indy layout. Now he's going to be under pressure once again, but he's had a few corners of respite here. Into the final turn, coming on to the final lap. The seconds are ticking down, but they're not ticking away quite quickly enough for Eric Grove. He's going to have to endure one more lap of Sean Campbell's attack here. On the inside into Paddock Hill Bend, not going to happen there. Into Druids, is the run going to be there? He's missed the apex at turn 1. That's a costly error, because this is his best overtaking opportunity, surely, but he's let it go to waste. Sean Campbell is going to have to find an unorthodox place to make this move as the white flag is waving for everybody now. We are officially on the final lap of this race. Eric Grove is defending into almost every corner, almost because he's scared of the RSR car diving down the inside. He's watching his mirrors right now. It's a good run through that turn there through Surtees for Eric Grove. It's not close enough by the looks of things for RSR. This is the furthest away Sean Campbell's been for a very long time. You'd think the pressure would begin to tell at this stage, but it's just not. Eric Grove has stayed absolutely strong at the front of this race. He's not going to let it go now, surely. There's only 3 corners to go. Up the hill, through the right-hander. Sean Campbell has to do something spectacular here if he wants to take this win away from Pure Sims Esports. It would really have to be something special, and he's not going to do it, surely. There's only 1 corner to go. Eric Grove right now, bit of lap traffic in front will affect them too much. Into the final turn, it looks like he's going to hold on. Sean Campbell gets a very good run out of the corner. Eric Grove is going to hold on by the looks of things, and by the smallest of margins, Pure Sims Esports win at Brands Hatch in the IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series. A fantastic race to the flag between the two of them. Eric Grove versus Sean Campbell, a fantastic battle, but Eric Grove prevails with some great defending. And despite being under severe pressure for the final 10 minutes, he holds on for the race win.
I have to say, that battle was all decided in turn number 1. When Eric Grove made that late juke to the outside lane back for turn 1, it caused Sean Campbell to have to react very quickly to follow, and that jerk is what put him offline for turn 1, and that's what cost him the momentum. He was not able to just close the gap ever since. It's amazing how you have these defining moments in a battle as we watch more and more cars just trickle across the line. What an absolutely thrilling run to end race 1, and it's not over yet though, right? We are set to do it all over again for race 2.
We are indeed. It's going to be the top 20 reverse. Let's not forget, there's a few battles a little bit further down for those final positions at the front of the reverse grid. I believe Vector by RSR in the 172 got it in the end, as all of these guys are coming across the line. There was quite a fierce battle between everybody to try and get that one, and so in the end they were able to claim it. Here are the race results though, just by 1/10.5. Eric Grove and Pure Sims Esports win the race ahead of RSR in the 68. Robin Haas rounds out the podium ahead of Impulse Racing. The 69 RSR car finishes in 5th position, getting ahead of Maniti Racing in the final few laps. The Pro-Am winners, Project Dynamic, finished 7th ahead of the second place starters, Team RSO by 5-star. Vector by RSR were 9th ahead of the 5-star Motorsport team in the number 5, rounding out your top 10 after starting in 24th position in this race. 11th position, second place in Pro-Am was Impulse Racing ahead of Full Send Racing and Impulse, the other car, after the Vladimir Ponomarenko wasn't able to get through on it in the end. The AM winner, Westwood Racing Esports, in the end just about held off Olympus Esports and BSTV Esports by only 3 seconds. Rusty Spatula was 17th ahead of V-Races and World of Sim Racing, who were in the end 3rd and 4th in the AM category. Vector by RSR, the 172, 20th position after 44 laps of racing. Most of these guys we're about to see next as well didn't quite make it to the end of this race, I'm afraid. Also, Motorsport Group did, ahead of Kazar Sim Racing, BEC Sim Racing, the 25 Kazar Sim Racing car. Then we got Ronin Academy, Olympus Esports, Mag Performance Junior Team, Simtech, and World of Sim Racing, all who retired, didn't make it to the end, and most of them after some fairly hefty incidents, some of them of note in terms of the championship as well, which is a real shame to see. But a fantastic race there. Thoroughly enjoyable. We've got to do it all again though for the next hour. The reverse grid race. How are Pure Sims and RSR going to do in terms of getting through on the traffic is going to be very interesting to me, because some of the guys who are a little bit further down, like 5-Star Motorsport, got through fairly well, but when it came down to it, they weren't quite able to get those last few positions. So it's going to be a very interesting hour coming up.
It most certainly will. I mean, what an absolutely amazing race so far. It's one that came down to strategy. This is going to be, I'd imagine, even one of those races where the strategy game is going to be what decides this race. We've seen it before, right? At tracks that's difficult to overtake, and you oftentimes have to gap your opponents in pit lane. And all you got to do is really just park it in the middle of the track, and you'll be smooth sailing throughout the remainder of the race from there on out. It's going to be a matter, though, of obviously defending in the opening run, especially with this reverse grid. We've seen what kind of carnage the top 20 reversal can mean for this field. We saw it at Detroit, we saw it in Garring, we saw it at Barber, Oulton Park, and of course other facilities as well. We're going to be seeing that at Brands Hatch as well.
We certainly are, and I'm a little bit worried about the first lap, I've got to be honest, but let's wait and see on that one. So, just a little bit of a few things to mention while we're in the warm-up session in between race 1 and 2 right now. First of all, the Easter egg that you'll be looking out for here today is going to appear on your screen. There it is. At the end of the season, so during the final race, there's going to be a link where you can input all of the Easter eggs from the season, and yeah, hopefully you can get them all right here in this one, as a bit of a challenge throughout the IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series. That's what you're looking out for here today. And also, remember where we are in the world, where this track is, and so on and so forth, for all of the clues with regards to the Easter egg. Also, the giveaway, which is a standalone event each week that we have an IVRA GT Sprint Series race. The prize this week for the giveaway is an Alloy Elite 2 mechanical gaming keyboard. So if you want one of those, have a look at the chat. There's a link pinned at the top for the giveaway. If you click on that and go through a few things, then you'll be able to put yourself in for the giveaway, and so you can enter yourself for a chance to win there on that one. And of course, this series, as it is every week, brought to you by HyperX, the official gaming peripheral sponsor. Make sure you check them out for all of your needs in that respect. Very much worth having a look and a bit of a gander at their website. Does that phrase translate very well to other languages? Don't know. But yeah, have a look at that one. And of course, we thank them for their contribution throughout this fantastic season. We've thoroughly enjoyed having them on board, and they will indeed continue to be so throughout the rest of this season. Not sure if we're going to be running through the entirety of warm-up here, or indeed if we're going to be getting off at 15 minutes past and going straight through with the race. Not entirely sure on that one, but we'll have to wait and see. What I can say though is that we've had changes in the championship because of the previous race. Let's talk about Maniti versus 5-Star Motorsport first of all, because obviously they've come in here 1 and 2 to this race, and in the end one of them had a much better race than the other, but in the end Maniti were only able to finish 6th with 59 points. Maximilian Fritz is going to get 9th place points, as he's only going to lose out on 17 points by the looks of things, which is a very, very good amount of points to be losing, especially considering he started in 24th position. So you know, that's good damage limitation from Fritz, but obviously you do have to worry about that incident they had with not World of Sim Racing, excuse me, Mag Performance, where they definitely got up the inside of them and ran them out of road, spun them around at the penultimate corner. You know, I would be worried about a points penalty with them, with the number 5, despite the good drive that they had.
And it's those little penalties, as there goes the Olympus Esports Ferrari once again off and into the wall in the warm-up session this time around. It's those little penalties that can oftentimes decide a championship, especially one that has been as close as this. And I mean, 37 points, you know, entering race number 1. It seems like a very big margin, right, for a lot of people that aren't familiar with the points farm. But of course, 10 points for what you can take away from just first and second place. In fact, those 37 points at the moment, just gonna refer to my notes here really quickly, that is about equivalent from first place on back about fourth, right? So it's not a huge gap at all. In fact, if one driver finishes in 5th place with another driver in 100, well, that's those 100 points, or that's those 37 points gone right there.
Yeah, absolutely. So you do have to be very careful indeed. That gap is now extended to 54 at the front of the field. But then again, RSO, after coming into this race 73 points behind, obviously will have gained a few points. Robin has finished 3rd with 81, and obviously the 59 is going to lose them 22 points. So they're not quite going to overtake 5-Star Motorsport for second, but it is certainly going to get closer between the two of them. I can't quite do the maths on that at the moment. Maybe 51. Maybe they have overtaken 5-Star Motorsport, but either way, it's certainly getting closer, and we are going to have a great championship finale in 2 weeks' time. I hope you join us. We're going to be broadcasting it all live on RaceSpotTV, of course. And Montreal, though, is a good circuit for a championship finale. I think I quite like it as a circuit to drive, and I'm not entirely sure how the GT3s are going to go through there, especially on the reverse grid race. How are they going to squeeze their way through? I'm not entirely sure, but it should be. It won't be boring, put it that way.
Won't be boring, to say the very least. I mean, Montreal, my home turf, has certainly been, one of those races that consistently provides with some absolutely stellar racing year in, year out. No matter what kind of racing you like to do there, right? So that final chicane could prove troublesome for quite a few of these drivers. We've seen it before. These cars, not a fan if you abuse them too much. And oh boy, with the large curves being a thing of beauty at some points and an absolute curse for others at that track, you wonder how they're going to negotiate that facility. Because obviously, it was scanned back when, back then it was called the Nationwide Series, ran there back in, I think, 2011, if I'm remembering that correctly. Which means, of course, it's in the NASCAR configuration, which makes it a bit more interesting when you get GT3 cars racing there. Shall we say, they don't have the ground clearance.
No, no, not quite. But let's wait and see anyway. It's going to be a good race. And so we hope you join us. We hope you do join us for that one indeed. But also as well, let's not forget that it's not going to be the end of the IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series here in the next few months, because to this season we've got a championship finale in 2 weeks' time, but then at the end of February we start off with the winter season, let's not forget, and 2/3 of it is running over the Atlantic towards the United States. We run at Circuit of the Americas, Laguna Seca, Long Beach and Charlotte Motor Speedway, with interludes from Japan and Australia to go to Okayama, which is going to be a bit of a tight and technical one, and then Bathurst for a finale. I know the Bathurst 1000 has been happening this weekend, and it's always a fan favourite. It's always a driver favourite as well. The challenge through Bathurst is just fantastic, and sprint racing I've not seen work fantastically well through there, but then again I didn't think it would work that well at Belle Isle or Oulton Park, or indeed Brands Hatch actually, and they've all been good races so far, so I'm very much willing to be proved wrong, and Bathurst championship finales are never going to be easy ones for those who are leading championships, so we'll have to wait and see on that one. That's coming up towards May next year, and we're looking forward to it.
I have to say, I'm more curious to see what Charlotte's going to hold, right?
Yeah.
Using the Roval layout, right? So you wonder how that will be, because I believe it might. Is it going to be the first time the GT Sprint Series, or the HyperX GT Sprint Series, has gone to a hybrid oval road course layout? If it is, that'll make it rather interesting.
Well, I guess Daytona is technically a Roval, isn't it? But it doesn't quite feel like it sometimes. We did go there, but I don't know. I know it is technically a Roval, but it's not quite. It's not comparable to Charlotte in any way, in my opinion. And I'm sure you'll see why if you've ever driven it or indeed watched it. And I'm not entirely sure as well what the chicane situation is like at Charlotte. Are they using, because the very first configuration, the back straight chicane was absolutely, it was like pole vault, to be honest. I'm not entirely sure what the situation is. Do we have a much slower chicane on the back straight now in our racing? I could just be very, very behind, because I've never commentated on the Charlotte Roval, only the actual oval itself. But do we have the slower chicane now, or do we still have a bit of a triple jump going on?
You do have the slower chicane now, which is obviously going to make things a heck of a lot more easier. That's a chicane that I think, well, it's a mixed bag on that one, right? I personally like driving the older chicane because it's much more flat out. It is absolutely terrifying, and that makes it one of the funnest chicanes I think in iRacing to drive. And it's also one of the funnest chicanes to crash on, because it is usually nothing short of spectacular. But I prefer to race on the slower chicane. I think that's one thing, right? Hot lapping and racing, two very, very different dynamics. So I think they're going to be using the slower chicane for that, for the HyperX GT Sprint Series race. That is a very wise move, I think, because you really can't go side by side through that first chicane, the fast one, with anything that is faster than the Miata.
Well, yeah. Speaking of not being able to go side by side very easily, we've got a couple of those corners at this particular circuit. We're about to look at one of them. We're following Wood of Sim Racing here in warm-up, and Sheen Curve. We saw that incident with, incidentally, this car, and Maximilian Fritz, who was trying to get down the inside. The move was on, but the problem came when he missed the apex and ran them both out of road. Excuse me, I keep getting them mixed up. It was the Mac Performance car as well. The 111 that incident happened with, but either way, you know, going side by side through there, very, very difficult. However, we're going to have a lot of fast cars getting through some much slower ones throughout this race. We've got a fair amount of AMs up towards the front and some pro-AMs as well. I just wonder how these guys are going to tackle the opening few moments of this race, because it's a tight and twisty circuit, not easy to overtake, and the probability for big accidents is a bit higher than we've seen at some of the circuits we've had so far. So I just wonder how these guys are going to tackle the reverse grid race in the opening few laps.
Oh, for sure. It'll be a rather interesting race, to say the very least. I mean, we've seen it before. These guys can be rather impatient when it comes to trying to make your way up through the front of this thing. We've seen at some of the wider tracks where drivers have gone up and worked their way up 15 spots in just the first 3 laps. It's not really possible to do something like that, though, at Brands Hatch, unless it's really given to you. Although I have a feeling there might be a couple of drivers, at least deeper down the order, that might find themselves, let's say, a number of spots, and they won't be spots you're going to be losing quite that often, because you're going to have an abnormally high number of cars on pit road at the end of the opening laps.
Quite possibly. Now, one more thing on the championship as well. We said the guys out front, Maniti Racing, have extended their lead to over 50 points now over Team RSO and also 5-Star Motorsport. How do these guys who are behind, though, tackle this race? Because you've still got 200 points up for grabs at Montreal. Is it going to be an all-out brawl for those guys to try and get as many points as possible, or are we going to see a bit more reserved driving when the danger is high early on here in this race? Because obviously there is still points on the board a little bit later on, but they do need to start closing the gap at some point. It's a very difficult balance to get.
I think there's a bit of an understatement that it can be a difficult balance to get when you're trying to kind of make sure that the car is all set in stone for what you want to have up for these next few races. There isn't any sort of parc fermé, which is, I guess, the good news. If you found that something didn't quite work out for you in the race here, you can have the 15 minutes to make some very minor adjustments and be able to kind of punch your ticket through from there. We haven't seen that, though, so far, but who knows? You might have some couple of drivers that opt to gamble on that one for race 2.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's wait and see if they indeed do. The seconds are ticking down in war now. We're going to be able to see what the starting grid looks like very shortly, and prepare ourselves for what is likely to be around 44 laps of racing here once again. 44 laps of racing around Brands Hatch for the next hour or so. Hope you'll stay with us here at RaceSpotTV. Hope you're enjoying the coverage so far as well of the IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series, the third to last race of this championship before we have 2 more in Canada at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in 2 weeks' time. Will be also broadcasted live here on RaceSpotTV. Here is how we're going to be going for the next hour, though. It's Vector by OSR taking the green flag ahead of the first AM car and the second AM car. Wood of Sim Racing and V Racers lining up together with Rusty Spatulas, the first Pro-Am in 4th. Then another AM car, BSTV Esports, alongside Thomas Cope in Olympus Esports. My pick for the race win here in race 2, actually, secretly. Westwood Racing Esports are going to be in 7th position, trying to chase down their championship rivals, of course. And then we've got another one of the Impulse Racing cars in 8th place. Doesn't look like they can quite decide who's going to start that car for the moment, but they're going to be in 8th. Phil Send and Impulse are going to be on the road behind them, and then Maximilian Fritz looking to gain some points from 11th. Kevin Onke is going to be in 12th for Vector by RSR in the 171. Then it's Max Riedmuller in the 13, ahead of Yannis Albert in the 14th. In the 14th position, Andreas Till, championship leader, 15th position, looking to get through this race cleanly at the very least, and the 69 car alongside them. Then Marco Jaeger and Cedric Nibusek on the next row together. Nibusek is going to try and get through on Manitian, trying to gain some points on the 8 car with regards to this championship. Sean Campbell and Ross McFarlane are going to be starting on the same row together after having such a fantastic battle in the last race. Hendrik Lala is going to be in 21st, ahead of Aaron Ackles. Alexander Godfrey is going to be 23rd, ahead of Johnny Waters for Kazar Sim Racing. Those two lining up nose to tail in the same team. Ronin Academy and Olympus Esports on the next row together, ahead of Mag Performance Junior team. Not been their day, really, looking to gain points on their rivals. It's not really happened. The Simtech Motorsport, after their problems in race 1, 28th. Ahead of the final car, World of Sim Racing team in 29th. It's a tasty looking grid here, Nolan. Hopefully the first lap is going to be a clean one and this race lives up to expectation.
Well, whether it'll live up to its expectations, I have no doubt about that. It'll be a clean one. That is a whole other matter altogether. I think it's safe to say, as we've found out over the last little while, these starts have the tendencies to, shall we say, be dramatic and expensive for some of these teams. So we'll see how that could play on out, rounding through these final sector of the lap. Mentioned, of course, that you got your favorites. I believe what was it, 6th place it was at the moment. So you got a lot of these drivers that are going to be looking to see what they can do, and I'm going to keep one eye on the RSR by G Performance as well as the Pure Sims esports machines that are just at the tail end of the field, around 19th and 20th at the moment. See what they can make on these opening laps.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got some guys up towards the front who are not quite used to being there, I think it's fair to say. We've got 4 AMs in the top 20 and 2 or 3 Pro-Ams as well, so going to be a very different looking front to this order by the end of this race, I would expect, but a very chaotic one and hopefully an enjoyable one. It's all BMWs up the front though, the first 2 rows fully covered by the German manufacturer, and then we've got a Porsche running in 6th position, the first non-BMW at the front of the field. It's going to be Vector by RSR in control of the field, Niels Tiersters in control in the 172. He's going to go fairly early, a little bit earlier than last time, as Thomas Cope 4 wide on the outside line. Oh my goodness, the Proton trying to make up moves straight away, and it's been quite successful. 4th position for that car, running through, and he's diving left and right, trying to gain positions any which way he can. He knows there is a race win on the horizon, a race win up for grabs here, and he wants to grab it himself, not let the 172 get too far away, which is exactly what's happening right now with the 2 BMWs battling in front of him. He's going to get through on one of them, maybe a dive in on the other one, into Surtees with dominance. He's into 2nd place already. What a fantastic start from Thomas Cope.
There was a 4-car pile over the back of the field over at turn 2. I saw the 25 as involved, so was the 72, the 723, and then last but not least the 26 as well. So both Kazar Porsches getting collected as well. So a tremendous pile over the back of the field on turn 2. They got it all sorted out though, and now we watch these battles continuing to develop. The BSTV esports machine having to defend against Impulse Racing. Impulse Racing is third now. Here it comes. Oh no! Shuttle from the inside. Oh, that's another tremendous crash in the back. Back in upon the racing circuit. Look out, who was that? That was the V-Races machine, and looks at the Olympus Esports Ferraris on that. Another spin. Oh, heads up as cars still dicing way through. Those were the Porsches and the Nintendos that were collected in the pile up in turn 2, now dicing their way through.
Well, this is absolute chaos. Further down, Project Dynamic in Pro-Am trying to stay out of trouble here. As are Maniti, 2 championship leaders running nose to tail right now, trying to stay out of trouble. The 2 out front are certainly going to be doing that for the moment, but thankfully everybody looks like they've been able to negotiate. Lino Costa it was who went around there at turn 1, a little bit wide for Albert there, but the 69 car doesn't look like it's quite going to get through.
Trouble, 4th place!
Trouble, yeah, we do have problems, big problems. Oh, there's a big stack up here. Rusty Spatula's around, Impulse Racing around, and the championship contenders all try and scatter to avoid them.
That's pile number 2 at turn 2. The first one went off into the gravel. This time, though, it went off and into the racing line. So the 256 collected big time, and that one taking another look at this immediately. So we'll get a look at the race start crashes later on, and we'll watch this here. Just contact on entry. Was that the Kazar BMW or the Porsche? Excuse me, that said the BMW around.
And Rusty Spatula straight into the side of Impulse Racing as well. I think Maniti Racing had to go a little bit wayward to try and avoid all that, because they're down to 17th very briefly after all of that. RSR by Jim Performance. Sean Campbell, fantastic start from him, and Ross McFarlane as well, 12th and 14th, the two of them are. And there is one of the Pro-Am impulse cars. Oh no, it is a Pro car, excuse me, but not the main one, as Thomas Cope is getting dived there. One of the other impulse cars, the 63, that was Chris Shorter trying to get through. I didn't quite notice him up towards the front on the reverse grid restart, but he has been able to do that, and he's got a great start. This is Thomas Cope on the very start though, and this is one of the moves of the season. Two wheels on the grass, 4 wide on the outside into turn 1 at Brands Hatch. You don't get much more committed than that.
It was behind these guys, starting with the number 25 car, that all got spun around at the back portion of the field. And there you can see all 4 drivers screaming off and into the gravel trap. I think one driver got loose on entry to Druids. I'll take another look at this one here. This is more with the VC BMW. If I'm saying, check out one of the portions. Development, but it was the VC BMW that started it off.
Yeah, something going on the inside there has taken out a bit of a Kazar bingo there. Oh dear, a real chain reaction actually. I think there was a lot of bumping. I think VEC Sim Racing actually got bumped by the Lamborghini that was behind it. It's a bit difficult to see from this angle, but certainly a lot of cars off the road there. Trying to identify the Lamborghini behind there is very difficult, but either way, they certainly got into the back of VEC Sim Racing there and caused a 4-car pile-up, so you'd expect them to maybe get some kind of penalty for that one. In the race though, it's still Niels Tistus who's winning this one ahead of Chris Shorter, and then Thomas Cope we've got in 3rd position. Maximilian Fritz is in 4th ahead of Max Riedmuller. So Maniti Racing, there is Ronin Academy, and they may well find themselves in a bit of trouble for that one. So it's a lot of cars finding themselves gaining a fair few points on Maniti, but it is so early on in this race. The field is still so stacked up that it's very, very difficult to call indeed.
And you can see the battle for the race lead developing as well. The 172 Victor machine under fire from Impulse Racing. The Lamborghini up the inside. Is that going to be enough? Don't think he's going to get quite clear. Niels Tiester's going to look to battle with this one. Chris Shorter has got some work to do. He'll be offline for Hawthorne, which will give advantage to the BMW on the inside line. But the Lamborghini's trying to find this one out. Oh, so close between them. But Impulse Racing just pokes around, and just as we talked about before, you get Freight Train now. Cope gets swayed on the inside of Vector by RSR as well, and this time, I think Cope is going to find his way through, and now the bleeding will stop for the 172.
Well, yeah, he wasn't happy about it though, because Tistus was flashing the lights manically on the exit of the right-hander there, because he wasn't happy with the treatment he got from Thomas Cope. As BSTV Esports leading in the AM category at the moment, by the way, getting passed by a couple of cars, but not to worry for them. They're still leading that one ahead of World of Sim Racing. Project Dynamic already into the lead of Pro-Am here. Once again, absolutely dominant display. They're back to their usual form after a bit of a blip, it seems, at Belle Isle, looking very strong. Max Riedmuller, we're on board with him right now, trying to get through on the inside, affected by RSR. It's a big dive. He's slammed into the side of him, but nothing wrong with that bit of contact. And finally he's through. Don't think Tistus is particularly happy about that one, though. He's going to try and get through straight away once again in that BMW. There's a side-by-side in the background here. World of Sim Racing and BSTV Esports not quite changing position just for the moment. It's an absolutely manic train. This is the 68 car. Look at that one go. Sean Campbell is into 9th. We're only 7 minutes into this race. Not even that.
And Opakowski as well, getting tight with the full-send Racing BMW. That's going to be all sorts of physical. I mean, they're beating and banging like the racing at an American short track down the straight towards Hawthorne. Full-send Racing is going to yield. You can see Pure Sims having to go. World of Sim Racing as well. Deeper down the order, though, a one from Ronin Academy will send Full-send Racing tumbling backwards to 14th, and you got Team RSO now second to mix this as well with Andreas Thiel and Beniti Racing Crew. They single file it out. It is still manic racing deeper in the field. Beniti's got no room to work around the outside line, and you ride aboard the Full-send Racing driver.
That was a big pass for Cedric Nebusek, because don't forget they're in deep championship contention, both of those two. Team RSO and also Maniti Racing are absolutely fighting this one out in the two Audis. There they are. Maniti were in front until not a few seconds ago when Nebusek got through. Fantastic pass from him, but it's only 16th. these guys are not going to be gaining very many points on each other at all, as the other RSO by 5-star car gets up ahead of Olympus Esports for second. That's finally a move that was brewing for the last couple of minutes. It's hard to know where to look at the moment. I kind of need another few sets of eyes right now, because Thomas Cope has just been passed, and there's also that train going on a little bit further down. It's absolutely crazy out there at the moment and showing no signs of settling down.
And Pearsons are just working their way up and past IVRA on the opening of this lap number 6 for 10th place. That puts himself up into the top 10 now. So Pearson has moved their way up and looking to be on track to potentially get another race win here tonight. So there's still so much battling to be had. Yet you're right on board with Andrea Chiesa, the Pro-Am Ferrari Detroit winner, and a second place as well, if I'm not mistaken. So they won, I believe it was the first race. They came second place in the race afterwards. So you can have this Ferrari trying to work its way up through the field, trying to close it to Simtech Motorsport, but it's just not happening so far in the battle for 18th place. And this is all headed up at the moment by the World of Sim Race Machine up in 10th. It's about a 10-car train at the moment that we're watching.
Yeah, it is, and it's all stemming from Pure Sims Esports at the front, who've just got to the front of it as the 68 gets through on BSTV Esports. Not unexpected, that one. That was a Pro on an AM car. Where are oh no, excuse me, that was... yeah, so Pure Sims are trying to chase those guys down, and this is the train you were referring to a few moments ago. Project Dynamic getting to the front of it now. With that Pro-Am car, as World of Sim Racing falling through the order, and now we've got an AM battle between the two of them. The 151 is really under pressure from Westwood Racing Esports, their main championship rivals, and having lost so many points, 27 points in the last race, they can't afford to lose anymore. So there's going to be a big defence going on right now. You can see it, he hangs it to the middle of the road, not quite sure where to go with this one, and there's a battling side by side with Ronin Academy and Full Send Racing are going absolutely side by side, and now RSO and Maniti, Pro Championship rivals, are on the case as well. And down the inside, fantastic move from Needlesec there to get through on Full Send Racing.
On board here for another moment for the Full Send Racing crew, trying to close up to Nevelsic at the 197 RSO. Audi R8 LMS now has to close it to Ronin Academy just up the road. Opakowski for Westwood trying to have a go on World of Sim Racing as well. You still got the battles further up the field as well. This is for 4th place at the moment. 3-car train. Look for RSO Performance up the inside of 5-star turn 1. That's not going to happen though. Has to back out in the last second. There was no room to make the pass. Oh, heads up. Porsche just on the road in front. That's because our Sim Racing HyperX machine pulling up to the side of the road, stopping at the exit of turn number 2. I think just wanted a long lap to get the points. They have retired from the race early.
Yeah, I think they were trying to get out of the way of everybody as well, as Maximilian Fritz is going to do well not to get through on the 172 there, because he's just gone straight off the road twice. Oh dear, straight off the road twice for the pole sitter of this race. It was looking like a fantastic opportunity for them, but it's not turned out very well. Running wide through Graham Hill first of all, and then straight off into Surtees.
2 mistakes in a row affected by RSR. They have tumbled so far down the order as a result of that one. That is just disastrous for the 172. Tiestra is going to have a lot of work ahead if he wants to regain those lost positions here in race number 2. Oh, World of Sim Racing has had a spin as well for 12th place. They've just nosed it into the wall. You see them on the back of the field of the 151 BMW. So World of Sim Racing just barely avoiding the field behind with guys at Ronin Academy scraping through by the skin of their teeth. Take a look at this one. This was coming through Westfield, if I'm not mistaken. Just lost by themselves in the apex.
Yeah, on the entry to that corner, it was all going wrong, and I'm afraid with that replay we were just watching the championship slipping away from this team quite possibly. It was looking like a tall order either way, but it's certainly slipping away from them now. Aita Rios just doesn't even clip the grass on the entry, just goes in a little bit too hot and then spins around into the barriers on the left-hand side as we look at it. And that is going to be a very long road back for them at Montreal, if indeed that they can get into contention. We'll wait and see. But we're back up to the leaders. The 69 cars are applying so much pressure to Maximilian Fritz, who I was expecting to be a little bit quicker in the early stage of this race. However, really not getting underway very well indeed. Trying to dive down. Oh no, that's too late on the brakes. Surely, somehow they all hold it together, or do they? Fritz, I think, has just kept it out of the barriers, but he's just been tipped around and he's going to be down to 8th position.
Looking back at it here up through Hawthorne, this was a pass that was aggressive from RSR by G Performance at the 69 entry. Now, did they have the lunge? That's the big question, right? Was it on? I don't really think it was, not from that far back, and I think Fritz just barely scraped the wall, but not enough to really damage the number 5 Porsche 911. So be able to come back at it and have another go on board with the number 5 at the with the 69 at the moment. And, oh, that's just a tight one to call.
Yeah, it's difficult to say that one, but Maximilian Fritz is certainly going to be not pleased about that one. There's no doubt about that, as Andrea Chiesa is on the back of the Westwood Racing Esports car. This is not going to be a pass for class position, but it is going to be well, it has to be negotiated here. They can't just get out of the way. So Keynes is going to try and get through either way. But let's just have a quick update on the order at the front of the field, since we've not had one pretty much so far. Chris Shorter and Max Riedmuller are battling pretty much side by side for the race win as things stand. Shorter a bit of a tighter line off of Hawthorns just to try and defend from the 198 ever so slightly, and he's been fairly successful in that one. It's a good fight going on between the two, and it's just the craziness is going on a little bit further down the order, and that's diverting the attention away, but they are having a good fight, and they're both in with a great chance at winning here.
This is a solid scrap we're seeing here for the race leaders, and they continue to develop throughout the course of things as Run in the Academy VSTV have a couple of swaps back and forth as one car goes off track there, but they keep it on without going into the wall. So the battle for the race lead will no doubt continue. Max Riedmuller trying to have a go on Chris Shorter. It's not happening though at the moment. The Impulse Racing machine has just been so strong. Just behind them, forgot about for third on as well. RSPG Performance up the outside around turn 1 of Thomas Cope. That might actually be an overtake around the outside of Paddock Hill Bend, and Druids on being squeezed down to the left-hand side as well, but they do make the pass work. How about the outside of 1 and 2? Then here comes the switchback for Cope back to the inside for third.
Looks like there's a possible move back again for Cope here. He's been driving very well so far this race, has to be said, but round the outside for the 69 car through Surtees. Looks like he might well have this one done because he's got the inside line for Hawthorns, which is always going to be advantageous. Now Cope is going to be in a very sticky situation because he's got the 171 just behind. He's going to be wanting to follow through. Kevin Onke's going to try and get down the inside, and he does. Oh no, off the road for Cope, and the 68 is going to go through as well. It's exactly what we've talked about all day. Offline once, you're offline pretty much forever, and 3 BMWs go through.
The good news is that Olympus Esports didn't lose too much time, so the battle for third will be able to rage on up the road, and that is, I guess, some of the good news, right? Kept it out of the wall, didn't fling it sideways, kept his foot in it, and Thomas Cope will be able to come at it again another day. So back up to the battle for the race lead, just over a quarter of a second separating these two drivers. Sean Campbell in the mix as well with Kevin Oink just up the road, and looks like
it's a dive. It's too much. They're off the road, both of them off the road. RSO and Impulse both getting back on together. Goodness me, they were battling, and they've rejoined side by side as well. Max Riedmuller on the outside line is going to go for a cutback on Shorter, or is he going to kind of give him to that one? But let's see. Only 2 seconds is the lead now. So I've never seen that. They went off the road being side by side in a battle. They rejoined absolutely side by side as well. This is very bizarre.
As we look at the replay, the battle continues up to Hawthorne, but Riedmuller not able to make the pass around the outside line. Take another very quick look at the attempt from Riedmuller to go down the inside of Chris Shorter into turn 2. Wasn't on, and the attempt through Westwood went absolutely nowhere, so Shorter takes it back. I have a feeling that Riedmuller gave that spot back to him, wanted to take that without running him off the track, which is good sportsmanship, is it not?
Well, yeah, it is nice of him, but they have lost quite a lot of their lead because of that one. Word on the 69 car as well, which is looking very strong as the BMWs have been doing so far today. Coming to today 4th place in this championship. Oh no! RSR! The 171 off the road. Miraculously everybody avoids. I've no idea quite how, but Kevin Unk, I'm afraid, has had another problem here. He's started up towards the front in both races, but had problems. This could have been a lot worse for everybody.
And you'll see this here, just got on the grass, lost the back end, and Maniti Racing was coming around the corner. That wasn't the closest one, actually. Watch as he comes back on track here, right? It was Maniti Racing coming around on board with Ross, with the Virtus Esports machine, actually, excuse me. And the Maniti Racing Audi, though, just barely got around him, though, as he came back on course. This is on board with McFarlane at the moment. That was the Pure Sims car, and it was Maniti Racing that had an unbelievable wreck avoidance as well, having to duke around the left-hand side. Oh, and Hello's another spin-off at West. We're just behind these guys, so on board with Teal at the moment. I don't know who that was further in the order, but we'll look at this one first. Andreas Teal, this will be around the left-hand side as RSR came back on track.
Yeah, let's see how close this was. Kevin Unk was trying to get back onto the racing. So, dear me, yeah. Not the greatest rejoin we've ever seen, but not also the worst. So, we just about got away with that one, I think, as the two championship leaders continue on their way. The 69 car, as I was saying, by the way, was fourth place in the championship coming into today, but I don't think they scored any points. I don't think they got to the end of the race in the race one, or they certainly didn't do that well in it. I can't find them inside the top 20 by the looks of things, so it didn't look like they had a very good day of things. However, you never know how they can do in the second race. Oh, no, excuse me, they finished fifth. So I just completely missed them there. And they had a fairly strong result in the end, gaining a couple of points on Maniti by the looks of things. So they're very much in the championship conversation as well, and currently gaining a fair few points.
And the battle for the lead continuing to intensify. Riedmuller having a bit of a nudging out for sure, just a touch in turn 2. And you can see now EJ O'Donnell lines in the RSR GT 69 car now just tucked in line. That contact allowed the 69 BMW to start to close on in. It's got 3 different German manufacturers now looking to try and have their own say in how this battle could play out. Riedmuller running wide through the second last corner. You look back as well to Aspen Fritz, the 5-star Motorsports entry. He's under fire from Project Dynamic and Jan Albert in the battle for 7th place. Thomas Coe just up ahead of them at the moment. So the Pro-Am leader presently trying to maybe fight back against some of the pro cars.
Yeah, certainly. It's as we go on board with the 69 car right now. Yeah, it's an interesting race with the top 4 the way they are right now. Maximilian Fritz, though, is falling backwards, and it's not good to see for his championship hopes in that number 5 car. Let's wait and see how they can do. But currently it's 69 and indeed the 8 car, the 197 gaining points on their main rivals in the championship leader, and this is Cedric Nebusek. Currently gaining what is going to be, well, there's one prime car in front of them, so he's going to be gaining 5 points as things stand. With a 50-point margin, that's not quite enough, but you've got to start somewhere, I suppose, and any point is going to count at this stage.
Simtek Motorsports trying to find the outside. Might have to go back to the inside. Is going to go down the inside. BSTV Sports gives it up. Braking early for Hawthorne. Does not want to find themselves side by side. And, oh, that's good for them. Simtek off the course. Overshooting the corner exit as a result. So Simtek braked later, expecting for BSTV to fight it out. And BSTV and Adam Wright, well, it's a good thing they backed out and didn't go side by side. And they would have been run off track there.
Yeah, it was very bizarre moment, I have to say. Simtek eventually got through, though. PSTV are leading the AM category, by the way, ahead of Westwood Racing Esports by a second or so, but there's a few cars separating them, so that battle's not quite commencing just yet. This one certainly is, though. We've already seen Chris Shorter and Max Riedmuller come together once, but how can they hold back those BMWs? Because they've been so strong so far. Both RSR cars and Pure Sims as well, all been so strong in that first race. I just don't see how the Lamborghini or Audi can really hold them back in this race. There's not a lot they can do, really.
So what can O'Donnell Lines do here in the effort to try to get back past Riedmuller? I mean, the Impulse Racing Lamborghini has just been so strong as this race has gone along. You have to wonder, right, does Chris Shorter have what it takes to keep these guys at bay? It's come to blows already twice in the battle for the leader, and that could only be amplified now that you got a third contender in this mix as well, right? EJ O'Donnell Lines has been steadily closing in the gap. He has consistently been a bit quicker, and don't look now, but Sean Campbell is also now in the mix. The RSR by G Performance Machine in the number 68 entry just in behind. So you have these various little battles start to pick up, as well as your race 1 runner-up, who's no doubt going to be wanting to get through these guys in a hurry.
Yeah, 15 positions gained for that 68 car, which is a very impressive number indeed. And they've got Oscar Coper getting into the car for the second half of this race as well, which is a very, very strong position to be in. Not that these three out front don't have strong drivers to get into their cars as well, but Coper is one of the very best, and he'll be looking to try and win this race. It's just died down ever so slightly at the front of the field though, because Shorter and Riedmuller were right at each other's throats really for the first 20 minutes or so, but it's died down a little bit now, and I guess that incident might have just allowed a bit of reality to set in really, because you can't just go for it all the time I suppose, and they're deciding to just take things a little bit calmer once again, which is not a bad thing certainly at this stage.
It most certainly is not. The battle for the lead continues. Riedmuller leading from Chris Shorter, and Riedmuller trying to run down race leader Chris Shorter at the moment. So we'll continue to observe that battle as it develops over the course of this race. You saw a glimpse of some of the other fights going on down the order, but not a whole lot of them are as close to the one that we are seeing up here for the lead. I mean, this has just been fantastic race. Take a look at a RaceSpot replay here. Has there been an incident?
Motorsport. Yeah, there has been an incident, I'm afraid. Maximilian Fritz has not been having a very good day, I'm afraid to say. He was involved with Olympus Esports and Project Dynamic into Surtees, and he's just going to run too wide and go off the road for a spin. Carriage intention slipping away from this car, I have to say. Fritz has not had a very good day.
He's not had a very good day at all, and he'll be hoping for some better luck at Montreal in about 2 weeks' time. For Riedmuller, though, he's having all the luck he can hope for at the moment, and so has Sean Campbell. Right? I mean, Campbell now in the mix. This is now a 4-horse race for the lead. You've got 4 different teams, 3 different manufacturers, and all headed up by Impulse Racing, who's having to go defensive against Riedmuller this time by up in a Hawthorne, but no pass being made. This is the battle for 12 further down the order.
It is indeed. There's multiple battles like this actually happening, and it is indeed for one of the lower categories as well. Vector Bay RSR out front are not part of that, but BSTV and Westwood Racing Esports certainly battle for the lead in AM right now, and this is the battle for the lead in Pro and indeed overall in this race. Impulse Racing currently leading. They're going to have to go around at least one more time before the pit stop window is going to open, but it's Chris Shorter for the moment who is in that car, with Max Riedmuller just in behind. Both RSR cars, 68 and 69, both behind as well in reverse order, with Ross McFarlane just 3 seconds adrift right now as well. But for the moment, they're staying single file. Is it going to stay that way for much longer? Max Riedmuller's got a good run going up into Druids. He's going to try. Oh, his nose is down the inside, and Chris Shorter's going to go around. He's stuck his nose down the inside there with Riedmuller. He's already tried that inside move at the hairpin once. It didn't pan out last time. It's not gone well this time either.
Talk about the double whammy, right? Chris Shorter lucky that nobody else got into him. I mean, you could kind of see it, right? I mean, the door was not fully open, and Shorter's not about to leave it fully open either, as that sends Shorter once again around the Impulse Lamborghini. That is going to put Riedmuller now up in the lead of this thing, but you wonder for how long, with 2 BMWs trying to charge up behind him. So lucky nobody clobbered him there at the top of 4.
Yeah, Donald Lyons was very, very close to getting into the Impulse Racing car there. Very nearly made contact, but not on this occasion. It all stays as they were for the 2 BMWs, and they stay undamaged for the moment. But Chris Shorter, I think that's the 3rd time he's been hit or spun around, at that hairpin. It's not been his favourite corner so far, but Riedmuller has finally got the lead in this race. Now it's time to see, now that he's not being governed by the pace of Chris Shorter, what is his pace like? Is he going to be able to get away from the BMWs or not? Because we've seen those cars in the background, the RSR cars particularly, very, very strong indeed throughout the entirety of race 1. I wouldn't expect that to have changed for race 2.
And all this, meanwhile, pit window has opened. You can see this by Project Dynamic coming on down to pit lane. So they're going to put Lord Ibrahim Alios into the machine. So the number 21 car with a new driver, and a bit further down the order now at the moment, because the pit window is open and will Be waiting to see what this means for a lot of these guys as this race continues to pan out closer and closer to its conclusion out there. So you still have Reed Muller leading the way from the two BMWs just in behind. How long will it be before Sean Campbell comes in to put Cooper into the car?
Absolutely. I was expecting him to come in almost as early as possible, but then again, Campbell did a good job. Oh my word, what a catch that was from O'Donnell Lyons. He was very out of shape through Sheen Curve there, but hopefully now he's back going again in the right direction at least. It was a good save though, coming through the third to last turn. Let's have a look on board. This is all arms and legs in here. Look at that. Deary me. That could have been a lot worse, and in front of his teammate, of course, as well, who's gunning for a race win right now. That would not have been good, but straight into the pit lane, both RSR cars together.
So O'Donnell Lyons taking the trip down to pit road, and I'd imagine he'd be eager to get out of the car after a moment like that. What a catch, though, and you can see one of your AM cars. That's the Westwood Esports crew, I believe, in a battle. Correct if I'm wrong, with one of the... is that one of the BSTV Esports machine that's just in front of him?
It is indeed. It's the battle for the AM honours. It's the battle for the AM lead. It's up to 9th position now, but they weren't quite there before. They were outside of the top 10 just before. But now, obviously, within it, Adam Wright is currently leading, but he's been hunted down by the 87 just behind. And there's no reason to suggest that he won't be passed quite soon, really, if not during the pit stop cycle, which could happen as well. The 111 Mad Performance car is a Pro-Am just behind Andrea Chiesa, trying to get his way through, but he's been struggling to get through really on the AM Championship leader, and stays behind just for the moment as he tries to chase down Project Dynamic for maybe a race win in that category, although not looking likely as things stand. Let's wait and see though, as they're nose to tail. The 68 looks like it's got it ahead of the 69 through the pit stop cycle as well, but I'm not entirely sure if that wasn't coordinated between the two of them to let Oscar Copa go and try and chase down the leader, the 198.
So these battles will be set to continue all the way down to pit road, and none of these guys in that little train we were just watching coming down to pit road this time by. And Westwood closing up on BSTV Sports. Will he have a look into turn one? Was looking left and right. He's going to try to send it. Not going to happen though, and that allows Andrea Chiesa in the Matt Ford's junior team Ferrari to close up just a touch. Oh, Westwood's looking for the inside. Does BSTV give them the room? They're going to give them enough room so they don't make contact, but not enough to allow them to properly complete the pass. So this is cycling through the battle for 7th at the moment. They have yet to pit as well, so you can be falling a bit further well outside of the top 10 by the time they all come down to pit road. How much do you think this battle could be influenced by the pit stops?
I think almost entirely, to be honest, because if the Westwood Racing Esports car comes down pit lane on a different lap to BHTV, then I think they'll be straight through, really. So let's wait and see. A bit of pit stop strategy wouldn't go amiss for those guys, I think, at this stage, although it is more entertaining for them to get through on the track, so they might decide to do that instead. We'll wait and see, but obviously these guys are trying to win rather than entertain themselves. As Bright Max Riedmuller carries on, and I do think this is a bit of a mistake by Team RSO. We know how good the 68 car is and how good Oscar Copa is, so why would you let him run out on his own in clean air trying to chase you down? You might not have even a chance to reply when you come into the pit lane. I think the RSR car may well jump the 198 when it comes out of the pit lane. Let's wait and see though, as BSTV swing a little bit wide through the final corner. Westwood Racing Esports look like they're going to make their way through into turn one, quite possibly.
Oh, not quite, having to back out. They didn't quite get fully alongside by the time they hit the braking zone, and that forces Obakowski to back out. This time getting blocked by Adam Wright into turn two, and Andrea Chiesa just waiting in the wings at the moment. So you've got the Pro-Am Ferrari just behind the two AM leaders. Rusty Spatulas has made their trip down to pit road this last time by. That's why you see them now dropping down the timing screen. So Obakowski on right. Which driver wins out in this one? So far, interestingly enough, it hasn't really come from Hawthorne Bend like a lot of our other battles have, right? Where these big runs are coming from. It's only coming out of the final corner up towards Paddock Hill. It
seems to be, at least in this fight. Also coming down pit lane, the RSO car has been there and coming out of pit lane now, I think. Well, yeah, they're a long way ahead of Maniti all of a sudden, so I don't know quite how that's happened. But we'll just refresh the timing and try and see get to the bottom of exactly why RSO are so far in front of Maniti Racing. Why are Maniti Racing...
Oh, hello.
They're not pitted yet, that'll be why. They're up in third. So that explains quite a lot of things. But when RSO... when they do come in, RSO will be very near to them as BSTV come into the pit lane. Westwood Racing Esports had to slow down dramatically to let them into the pit lane. And so they joined Simtech in the pit lane. The lead does change, but for how long?
And all of throughout that, just before BSTV came down pit road, you saw Porsche off into the gravel through the final corner at Sterling's. That was actually Maximilian Fritz of the 5-Star Motorsport machine having yet more struggles for his Porsche 911 GT3R. So it looks like these problems are going to be set to continue for 5-Star Motorsports. You mentioned that it just wasn't their track today and it's just all kind of falling apart. Well, I don't think they can be any more evident right now.
Yeah, absolutely, it is falling apart a little bit as the final minutes of this pit stop window is really ticking down. Here's Jesse Jones on the back of the 68 car. Obviously this is for position, fastest lap most recent time around. But when this pit stop shakes out, we'll really see whether they're going to be in front or behind of Team RSO by 5 stars. Tim Lowenden gets through on the BSTV Esports car as well. Both of these are to pit still, I think. As Pure Sims also into the pit lane. So one more time around here for Max Riedmuller. He's really wanting to make use of this clean air, but I would be very worried if I were him about the 2 BMWs behind him, what pace they are doing. Behind him, it was a 22.0 last time around for Riedmuller. What about the 2 behind? They're in the mid-21s. There's no way Team RSO by 5-star can get out in front of those 2. Surely it's going to be an RSO 1-2 after this.
Obukowski is also into the lane. This is his last chance to be down and in. So we'll see where Obukowski comes out, in relations with these other drivers. And Oscar Koper under fire by RSR teammate Jesse Jones down the front straightaway. And here comes Pearson's out of pit road right alongside with Oscar Koper. The side-by-side battle rages on. And this time Eric Grove has the upper hand on Oscar Koper. Once again, these 2 BMWs battling side by side. And once again, Pearson's breaks away in front. Wow, Eric Grove, they were not close at all. A good 2 seconds behind RSR before the pit stop cycle, but they've had a fantastic pit stop cycle here, and they've come out ahead of the 2 RSR cars. Most importantly, Oscar Koper, who they were battling with all the way to the flag just 1 hour ago. What a fantastic race this is shaping up to be here in race 2. We haven't even added the RSO Audi into this one. Has that wiped away all of the advantage that RSR have built up with the clean air they were running with? Has that all been wiped away with the side-by-side battling? We're coming up to 25 minutes to go. The Maniti car and RSO car are both into the pit lane. But where are they going to come out? Where is the 198 going to be in relation to these guys? Mats Torg Husfeldt is going to be into that car. Let's not forget, he set the fastest lap during the qualifying sessions, or the second fastest lap, excuse me, behind Pure Sims. So where are they going to come out? They've not left the pit lane just yet. Coming down, trickling down pit lane, here is the onboard shot of Mats Torg Husfeldt. You're going to see the BMWs. And there they are in the background. He's got them quite comprehensively in the end. So despite the fact they were right on his tail coming in here, he's managed to extend the margin as the 2 RSR teammates battle into the second turn. And they're not happy with each other either. Why would you want to fight your teammates so hard? I mean, that was a shocking from Oscar Koper. Talk about a late defensive move. I mean, Jesse Jones had to slam the brakes to avoid turning his own teammate into the wall up through Drood's Leap. I mean, I did not think I would see something quite like that before. We'll take another look at this one here. I mean, maybe from RSR and Pure Sims maybe, but not on RSR to RSR. I mean, that is stunning that they didn't wreck there.
It is a little bit. Jesse Jones, you saw just flashing the lights there to Oscar Koper. Oh, off the road! Eric Grove at Hawthorns has gone off the road. He looks like he might well have been into the barriers as well. Now, how did this happen? Was it on his own? It looks like it might well have been. But we'll have a little look now at quite what happened to Eric Grove. He's just lost it on his own on the entry to the corner, and he has hit the wall there, surely.
Not too hard, not seeing a lot of damage, if any, on that BMW, so be able to reset and go again, but just dropped it right at corner entry. We've seen that more and more so far. There is a tiny little bump in the track there, right where you start to turn in. If you don't navigate that properly, it can just swing around on you. It's caught a few doors out tonight. I did not expect for Pure Sims to be caught out by that, though.
No, I certainly didn't either, as Ted Lowendick gets through on Project Dynamic. So the top 10 are all Pro cars once again, and the Pro-Am car leading now is in 11th. The Am leader once again is Westwood Racing Esports Championship leaders, and of course now leading this race. They've got ahead of BSTV Esports after that pit stop cycle, as we expected them to do. 12th position for those guys right now, and 13th for Samuel Buzzin, who's going to try and get through on them, but not looking likely for the moment. The question now is whether Mats Torgusfeld, I think, can hold on to the lead in this race. I'll be very worried if I was him about the speed of the BMWs during the last race, and especially Oscar T. Coper as well, because he's a very fast driver, of course, and he's in a very fast car, so I think he'll do well to hold off, but still just over 20 minutes to go in this race.
Just over 20 minutes remaining, and it has been, shall we say, an eventful race so far. I mean, race 2 by far has been a lot more dramatic, I think, than race 1 ever was. The field is a lot more spread out now than it was back then. That is no doubt due in part to the fact that we had so much attrition in the early stages, and even later now, as fatigue starts to set in for all of these teams, it can definitely cause a huge lack in focus. And looking around at this one of the battles between two Porsches further down the order, between 5-Star Motorsports Maximilian Fritz, and who is that from? That is Frederick Laufert's in the Morpheus by Awesome Motorsports machine, the number 72 entry, as well as this Ronan Academy and BSTV Esports looking a bit tighter as well for 13th and 14th, a little further up the road. BMW versus Lamborghini, and seen before that 79 car has had some serious pace underneath him tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Down the inside. Quite possibly. Ronan Academy, let's not forget, at this very point on lap 1, got into the back of VEC Sim Racing and sent 4 cars off the road onto the left-hand side. So I think they might get in a little bit of trouble for that, in all honesty, because that was quite a domino effect that they caused there. But you never know, as they try and get down the inside into Surtees. Obviously a Pro car getting down the inside of an Am car. Should only be one winner here. And so Ronan Academy up to 13th position, not exactly unexpected.
At time by Ronan Academy through on BSTV Esports, and the battle for the lead still is looking to potentially close on up a little bit more, but there's a lap car at the moment between Oscar Koper and Mats Torgusfeld. Now, Team RSO has been so consistent running up at the front of this thing, right? Do you think that Oscar Koper has the pace he needs to run him down? Because their lap times have been about even.
Well, it's difficult to say, but I think Koper might well just be a little bit quicker in the end. Of course, a little bit lap traffic might play into effect as well. As it is right now, I think this is VEC Sim Racing just up in front of Koper, one of those who was involved in that early incident at turn 2 on the very first lap, 23rd at the moment in the race. I think that's the last running car as well, but just under 2 seconds between them. You just saw the way that the 68 car ran down the Pure Sims Esports BMW at the end of the last race, and yeah, I think that tells you all you need to know about what's likely to happen or what could happen in the final 20 minutes of this one.
So it is Hootsfeld, Koper, and Jesse Jones, all for your top 3 at the moment, but there is about 3 seconds or so separating those drivers, which is quite a sizable gap at Brands Hatch, considering how tight we saw that battle earlier on. How about this battle, though, that's not tight, or not the space part at all? The 2 Porsches going at it side by side. Fritz trying to make his way around Loud first. That's going to be tight through Graham Hill. And the number 5 car just manages to punch its way through. The Morse by Awesome Motorsports finally bumped out of the top 20, and now you can see Fritz looking set to set sail and carry away a P20, but it is, I would say, about another, what is that, like 10 seconds, 15 seconds up the road to 19th place. That's about the best you can hope for them all with less than 20 minutes remaining.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's going to have to be big lap damage limitation for the team that came into this race only 2nd place in the championship, as we go up to P12 and Academy getting through on more Am cars by the looks of things. But yeah, Maximilian Fritz, I'm afraid, has not had a good performance today, and he's slipping out of contention by the looks of things. 2 cars that are certainly still in contention though. Team RSO in the 197 are going to be gaining currently 6 points on the Maniti Racing teams to bring the lead down to less than 50. But also, the 69 RSR car is going to be getting quite a few points here in this particular race. 81 about 28 points in this particular race alone, and they gained a couple in the race 1 as well. So 3 teams very much in big contention for this one. Of course, RSR in the 68 and the Pure Sims Esports cars have both had good days as well, gaining on Maniti. I think they're a little bit too far adrift, but you never know with them as well. So it's very much still up for grabs going into the final round.
I think that's going to make the strategy coming into that final round so important. Montreal, once again, one of those tracks that is very, very difficult to initiate overtakes on, especially really throughout the first 2/3 of the lap, right? The best place you really got to make the pass opportunity is from the back stretch down to the front stretch. So basically, that 180-degree hairpin corner from there all the way around to turn 1. That's realistically your best shot. You can't really make an overtake in GT3 cars anywhere else over at the circuit Jean Villeneuve, which means you're going to be in a much more compromising situation if you're at a bad place in the championship standings. Not to mention qualifying next or in 2 weeks' time is going to be so important as well. So I imagine a lot of these drivers are going to be putting in more hot lap practice than they will race practice, just trying to see if they can get the fast times down.
Possibly, but then you have to think about the second race, of course, where the grid is reversed, so you're going to have to get through the field whichever way you do it, really, in this one. And so it's going to be a very, very difficult one, but I do fear for them a little bit on lap 1 at Montreal in the second race. It's going to be a very, very tight squeeze for everybody, I think, but hopefully it all goes well. The 171 looks like it's had a problem because it's dropped outside of the top 10, and it's the penultimate corner, I'm afraid, that's claimed another victim.
Oh, and almost rejoined in front of the BSTV Esports crew as well. So what happened to just took the grass and entry again. Is that not what happened the first time they spun around in this corner?
Yeah, now you're testing my memory there, but I can't quite remember. Really, it's certainly not the first time we've seen that particular thing happen here today. And a lot of cars got through. I'm not sure if Olympus Esports got through there. They were very close to doing so, and they might well have done. They did. World of Sim Racing tried to do the same and dropped them out of the top 16, but can't quite do it for the moment. That's Marco Pereira on the back of that car right now, trying to make his way through. Oh dear, Fritz, Maximilian Fritz, his nightmare is continuing. It's another incident of the penultimate corner.
It's just when you think it can't get worse. Oh, it's the same mistake that we just saw Lowendig make. Literally a carbon copy, even backed into the wall in the same way. I mean, you can't get more carbon copy than that. I mean, same point of the grass. You see the tire marks fall with each other off into the sand.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a very bizarre bit of symmetry lining up there as we go on board with the Pro-Am World of Sim Racing car. They've all been in arrears of the Project Dynamic team all season long, and that trend is continuing on here today, although these guys are third at least. The Rusty Spatulas car, by the way, without a front end in any shape or form, is second right now, so I just wonder if Marco Pereira can get anywhere near that BMW throughout this race. We'll try and get a view of this. It's not got a great rear end either, has it? It looks like it's backed itself into the wall. There's the car. That can't be very helpful.
Ugh. Is it just me, or do those wheels look rather deformed as well underneath that machine? I mean, good gravy. I mean, it's not... I think to say it's been aerodynamically compromised is a little bit of an understatement at this point.
I think it's the wheel arches that you're looking at that make it look a bit deformed.
Oh, yes.
The wheel arches, I just think they're some very fat tyres, but no, just look at the wheel arches there on the inside. That's not tyres, they're wheel arches, I think, which are clinging on for dear life by the looks of things at the moment. Unlike the bumper and the bonnet, which has both been gone a long time ago. I think that was in the very first openings of the race. If you remember, at turn 2, maybe lap 2. They were trying to get down the inside of one of the cars. They spun around and one of the Impulse cars came into the side of them, and I think that's how they lost their entire front end, and so they've been recovering from there. But despite the rather horrible looking front end, it's actually driving not too badly by the looks of things.
It is just a bit of an interesting one, isn't it? And, you know, the incident that took place so long ago was always one that was going to be, you know, a bit of a rough incident as well. In fact, we'll take a look at this one as well. This was back when our spatulas had a front end that looked semi-normal. This was coming up for turn number 2. I'm not quite sure when this was, but it was early in the race. Lap 2 is what I'm being told, and that was the spin from earlier on. Remember where Russ Spatula spun around, and there was the hit, and that collected Impulse and all sorts of other drivers. That was that second stack up.
Maniti got held up in that one. If you just look at it again on board from maybe the 5-star motorsport team, because I look at this incident a little bit differently now, because look at the Maximilian Fritz here. He gets into the side of Rusty Spatulas. Now, I thought the 313 made an ambitious move and it just didn't work out, but it was actually Fritz who got into it, and look at that, the number 8 championship leader got all involved in this mess as well. Here's on board with Fritz.
This is on board. This is where I guess where all the struggles for Fritz started, and oh yeah, you're right. There was nothing at all that could have been done there. That's not our specialist fault. That falls on Fritz, sorry to say. You wonder if that could impact him even more as this race goes along. So there has been a swap for 10th place, by the way. I think Project Dynamic had a small off at the second to last corner. That allowed Corona and Academy to work their way through the number 79 machine. So Project Dynamic falling outside of the top 10, but you know, 2 different classes there. So that could be a swap for any sort of points.
Well, I think that the Project Dynamic car has just been letting Pro cars through, just very sensibly letting Pro cars through, because obviously you're not going to lose any points by letting them through since you're a Pro-Am car. So that might be what happened there. Although we didn't quite see it. Either way, Ronan Academy good recovery to get themselves in the top 10. They didn't actually finish, get to the flag at the first race, and so they've started a long way down. Weren't able to benefit from the reverse grid, and they've managed to get themselves up into what is, you know, a top 10 place right now. So a good recovery from them. But you have to say, the way Project Dynamic drive these races, letting the Pro cars through at any given opportunity, just trying to stay out of trouble, it has served them so well, because they've only not won 2 out of the 10 races now that we've had.
They certainly have, and that does, it means good news for them in their bid to try to go for some more championship points, being able to let those guys go through. Pick your battles. It's a statement that we've seen time and time again. You got to pick those battles wisely, and one battle looking to pick up is from 14th on back to the 16th position. You can see Thomas Copley, not Thomas Copley, but the rest of Skya in the number 46 Olympus Esports machine after the driver swap, and Ted Lowendig for the affected by RSR 171 just in the mix of this as well, further in the field. So looks like Olympus Esports having a bit more pace underneath the Porsche 911 GT3R, trying to put the BMW down another spot.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a Pro car trying to get through on some of the apps. Let's not forget, this car started by Thomas Cope 4 wide on the outside of the first corner. I'm sure you'll remember, but had a few issues further along the line from the race, trying to recover from those now and get through on Rusty Spatulas, maybe BSTV Esports as well, who are the BMW just up in front of these guys as well. But Rusty Spatulas do need to be careful. They've got the 51 World of Sim Racing car not too far behind. There's a couple of cars separating them, but if they let these 2 through, then there could well be an all-out fight for second place in the Pro-Am category. So they will have to be careful, but the 46 car's going to want through straight away. So there's kind of 2 ambitions here. One of them trying to stay in front quite desperately, and one of them trying to get through quite desperately as well. So we'll see how it plays out as Ted Lowendig is following on from behind.
And don't discount Marco Pereira as well for the World of Sim Racing team, just in behind for 17th. He's been trying to close to this battle in front of him, and Samuel Buzin for the BSTV Esports crew has been trying to keep them at bay, as a matter of fact. So we've got a lot of these various battles. This could become a 5-horse race really quickly here. This time around, Olympus Esports closer than ever into turn 1, thinking about a look this time. As the rest of Skya, though, doesn't have the space. Initiate a pass around Hakkinen around the inside lane of turn 1. Again, thinking about her too, but she's also doing a good job on picking this battle wise. Yes, there's under 10 minutes to go. Some people want to just go, but she's doing a great. She's a driver that really knows to pick when to make that overtake. Oh, might get it here though. Big bobble for Hakkinen out of Graham Hill and up through Surtees. That will open up the doors for us rest of Sky to throw it down the inside lane. Russ Spatula's trying to pinch her in. Not going to happen though. Us rest of Sky for Olympus is through.
Yeah, Olympus Esports through into 14th position. Rusty Spatula's really the architects of their own downfall a little bit there, I'm afraid, as they go through Hawthorns. What happened at Graham Hill Bend, of course, going wide themselves, but maybe a chance to get down the inside again here. They're all very, very close together. This is the worst situation possible for Rusty Spatulas as well. They're losing time in a battle right now as they see this going through. You can see the 171 trying to get through themselves as well after that spin we saw at this corner a few laps ago. On board with Ted Lowendick now, but you see in the background World of Sim Racing gaining, and that could turn into a battle for second in Pro-Am.
And already you see Olympus Esports starting to pull a bit of a gap over Rusty Spatulas as well. They were clearly the faster driver. They just needed to try to get their way past, and thankfully Hakkinen made it relatively easy with that little bit of a mistake. So Hakkinen having to struggle here. That's a launch from RSR on the inside. Lowendick, I think, might just make that work. You can take advantage of that lack of front-end downforce courtesy of the hit that Hakkinen took earlier today. Lowendick will now put Hakkinen down to 16th.
Absolutely, as the battle for first has extended its margin. Mats Torg-Hutzfeld has now 3 seconds over Oscar Copa. I have to say, I've been proved totally wrong by Hutzfeld up front at the field. I thought Copa was going to run him down towards the end of this one, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen with 5 laps to go as they go on right now. It does only take one mistake, but I don't think Hutzfeld's going to make one. But we'll see, of course. The two RSO cars, second and third, not a bad run for them, but RSO having a fantastic day in that 198 car. Hutzfeld qualified second, of course, had to recover from his spin on lap 1 in that race, but he's more than made up for it here in race 2.
I gotta be honest, I'm a bit surprised that we haven't seen Pearson's really contended as much for this win as I thought I would. Of course, he had that really major incident all the way out through Hawthorne on his first trip. I believe this was his first trip at least, out of pit road. Lost second place as a result there. You have to wonder though, had that spin not taken place, would the driver in Ford have been able to potentially contend for a race win here tonight?
I don't really know, because he only came out about 3 seconds behind the two of them, and now he's out to 6 seconds, so I don't think it would have been their day, I'm afraid. Plus, Eric Grove, if you remember back to Spa Motorsport Park, he had a fair lead over Oscar Copa in the end, got run down towards the end of one of the races. I think it might have been race 2, and it just didn't quite seem to be as strong as Copa, so I'm not entirely sure if Pearsons were going to be able to win that one, but they'll be able to console themselves, I guess, with having held on for the win in the first race. And the 68 team might be a little bit disappointed with only having 2 second places, but I think they will have scored the most points out of anybody throughout this race here today, and they can't be complaining with that.
So 5 minutes left on the clock, estimated 4 laps left to go as well. So time.
Who was off there? It looked like a lap car because these guys weren't gaining any positions there, but somebody was off at Paddock Hill Bend.
72 car getting tipped around. I think that actually might have been courtesy of Fritz. He was in a battle for 21st, 22nd here. Watch this coming up through Paddock Hill Bend. Is this another problem for 5-Star Motorsports? And take a look at this one into Paddock Hill. Oh, wow. Well, that tells the story right there, doesn't it?
Yeah, oh dear, and there's a very steeply downhill there, by the way, so it's quite easy for you to roll very quickly down into the barriers there, and that's exactly what happened, I'm afraid, to the second.
Oh, they just spun again at Hawthorne.
Oh dear, not having a good lap by the looks of things. Trying to rejoin safely, not in front of the leaders, which is a good job from them, not to be influencing those battles. Plus, it looks like there's a little bit of damage, and plus a hit to the rear there. You would expect a Hawthorne very high-speed corner. Need a lot of rear downforce to keep yourself glued to the road, and you can imagine they've lost quite a lot of that in that incident that we're about to see.
I have to say, the amount of cars that the 5-Star Motorsports Porsches hit has been, shall we say, higher than I think we would like. I mean, you had that incident earlier on, and then And now you have this, and as well as that, a couple of other select incidents throughout this race and the race before as well. At this, they're going to be on track to get themselves a suspension here in a moment if they're not too careful.
Maybe. Let's wait and see on that one. As Vector by RSR and Olympus Esports are fighting it out. Now, this is a fight for position in the pro category. It's going to be 11th place in that one, but 13th overall. Excuse me, 14th overall. With only 3 minutes to go. Maniti Racing also under pressure from Full Send Racing, and there is championship implications there because that will be the difference between 5 points or not for Maniti. And of course, being championship leaders, they're going to have to be careful of that. Down the inside for Olympus though on BSTV Esports. This is all hotting up around the 13th position with the second place car in AM.
So Olympus trying to have a go on BSTV. Samuel Buza, though, keeping those rest of Skya at bay for the time being. The 46 car not going to initiate the pass this time around. You've got Vector by RSR in the 171 just in the mix as well. Oh, I know that checks up Lowendick. And now a fierce defense was the rest of Skya. Lowendick not a happy camper with that one at all. Up through the corner and out through Sterling this time by. That has given Buzan a little bit of breathing room just up the road. And Rudy Knockfell still having to defend against Leon Erger as well in the battle for 7th place. Just a little ways up the road for these guys. You got these two battles now that we're both trying to keep eyes on at the same time. And it's kind of ebbing and flowing which one is closer at the moment.
Yeah, it is at the moment. Let's see. There's good 3 or 4 cars involved in this one though, so it could well heat up at any moment really, down into the Druids, and here we go into Hawthorns with Maniti. Leon Erger trying to go down the inside, and the last thing that Maniti need right now, I know losing the 5 points is not ideal, but the last thing they need is a spin into the wall at a high-speed corner, and that could have provided that moment for them. Rudy Knockfell has got to keep his eyes very much well, to the road and the mirrors all at the same time. It's a difficult situation for him to be in.
Time is steadily running out as well, Ryan. You got an estimated 2 laps to go. You do have 2 laps to go as Team Marceau has already started their second to last lap. So Leon Erger is going to be more aggressive. Got to run this time though, out of the final corner, up through Paddock Hill. Will he take this one around the outside line? Maniti Racing trying to defend, trying to pinch. Full Send Racing into the left-hand side, but Erger goes through around the outside. Not quite clear though. Knockfell still's got the bottom lane for turn number 2. And Erger having to fight this one again. Long way around through turn 2, but he's got the upper hand for Graham Hill down at turn 3. Is that gonna be enough? Forces Knockfell off the track. Oh, he wins! They come together! And Erger's up and over against the wall!
Oh, Full Send Racing going to be out of this one, I'm afraid, because they're over and onto their roof. Dearie me, Simtech Motorsport were able to get it involved as well. They're really providing the pressure to Maniti, but goodness me, who was at fault for this one? There's going to be a lot of arguments between the two about that one, I suspect. They go side by side through Graham Hill. This is all fine. Maniti squeezed a little bit, but it's all fine in the end. Now, oh dear, they've got to come back on the road at some point. There's a bit of AstroTurf on the right hand side there, but it does run out and goes into grass. Now, does Leon Erger not give them the space on the exit of that corner? Or do Maniti come out into Full Send Racing? It's very, very hard to tell.
I honestly think Erger didn't leave them enough space. I mean, there comes a point, right? You have to come back onto the track. Knockfell was about to run off of the racing service had they not done what they did. Full Send Racing kind of did that to themselves.
Yeah, it looks like it. It certainly looks like it. I would certainly agree. But meanwhile, Jesse Jones got through on Oscar Copa, by the way, for second place. So that's a change between the two RSR cars. And Maniti Racing did get passed by Simtech Motorsport. So losing more points, they're 5 more points lost for Maniti. And I'm afraid it's not been the perfect day for them. Their championship lead is going to be slightly bigger than it was, but it's going to be to a different team, Team RSO, who are going to be very informed. Not this team. Mats Torp Husfeldt has been driving fantastically well today. Not really in championship contention, they're kind of outsiders, but they put on a great show today here at Brands Hatch. Through the final corner they go. Mats Torp Husfeldt and Team RSO by 5-Star Motorsport are going to win the second race of the IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series here at Brands Hatch. And it was a dominant display in the second stint from them. Thoroughly deserved winners.
And you've still got that battle for 13th place looking to be settled as well, as the rest of Skya has not finished trying to close up to Samuel Buzin for BSTV Esports. There's still just a little bit of time. Is it enough, though, for the rest of Skya to try to pick up one more spot? Don't discount Ted Lowendick, who still has a couple of corners to make this one work as well. It might be a bit of an ask, though, in the final 2 corners. Does the rest of Skya have what it takes to try to punch her way past Samuel Buzin? I think, though, that BMW will just be able to hang on.
Yeah, it's not a great overtaking opportunity, the final turn, but if it is the last one in the race, then you might well go for it, although it's going to take a little bit of a tight line through the final corner. It's 171 going to get in the slipstream, but not going to be able to get their way through there. They all come across the line together, and through everybody goes. Then last car on the Garrett Thompson in the Kazar Sim Racing car got pinballed to the outside, if you remember, at turn 2. But 17th position, good recovery, just getting to the end of this race. Now, it was a pretty good effort from everybody really to get to the end here, because it was quite a melee at the start.
You have to always pull through, right? And that's the most important thing. If you manage to just get yourself, kind of regroup after the initial incident, work your way through, you're going to pick up a few more spots, and he did it perfectly to not give up, pulls through to get 17th at the end of the day.
Here are the final results though. Team RSO by 5-star winning by just under 4 seconds ahead of the 2 RSR cars. Pure Sims a few seconds adrift after that ahead of Impulse Racing, who rounded out the top 5. Robin Haas nearly got into it there in 6th position, gaining points on Maniti Racing, who finished 9th in the end. Simtech and Ronin Academy both getting through on Rudy Notveld towards the end. Project Dynamic, the Pro-Am winners, rounding out your top 10. Then finishing in 11th position, we had Westwood Racing Esports, the AM winners at the end, ahead of second place in AM, just under 2 seconds back. BSTV Esports ahead of Olympus Esports and Vector by RSR. We saw that battle towards the end. Rusty Spatulas just in arrears in 15th. Then we have World of Sim Racing Team and Kazar Sim Racing the last seat on the league lap. Moko Silva brought V-Races to the line 1 lap down, and World of Sim Racing, I'm afraid, a lap down as well in the 151. 5-star Motorsport Maximilian Fritz having a complete disaster, rounding out your top 20. Then we've got VEC Sim Racing, who got caught up in that incident early on. Leon Erger, who didn't make it to the end with that late incident, as we saw. The 72 car, likewise, the 111 didn't make it to the end. Neither did Olympus Esports, Vector by RSR. 2 of the Impulse Racing cars and Kazar Sim Racing getting out at the very first lap, I'm afraid to say, after that lap 1 incident. So that is it for this second race here at Brands Hatch, and what a fantastic race indeed it was. We're looking at a couple of replays at the opening moments of this one. We'll see if there's 1 or 2 drivers waiting for an interview. We'll hang on for a couple of moments, but I guess I'll use the rest of this time just to say a big thanks to everybody who's watched along here this afternoon. It's been thoroughly enjoyable. And make sure you join us in a couple of weeks' time. We're going to be here, same time, same place, just after 2 o'clock in the UK, just after 3 in Europe, and you can work out your time differences for the rest of you for where it is. I know it's fairly early in the morning for some of you in the over the pond in the United States. We hope you join us. Joining us right now, though, just for a quick interview, the race winner at race 2 at least, Mats Torg Husveld in the 198 RSO car. Mats, welcome along. It's good to have you here. Obviously, we're just watching some of the replay, some slow-mos from the start. It was a very chaotic one for everybody, it has to be said. Race 2 is always a very difficult one for everybody. How did you pick your way through the traffic early on in this one, and then ultimately getting yourself up towards the lead in this race?
Yeah, first, thanks for the congratulations. I think Max did a good job in the first half of the race. Really good decisive moves. But on the other hand, we had one contact, so we are expecting maybe a penalty, a 5-second penalty, or so we don't know if the win is still in our hands.
Well, absolutely. That's all to be decided a little bit later on. But how was the stint for you? Were you ever worried at any point during your stint? Because I have to say, I saw the two RSR cars behind you, and I thought you were going to have a real battle on your hands throughout that one. But you actually ran away from them. Was there any doubt in your mind throughout the stint, throughout the second stint there for you?
To be honest, I studied the pace of the two BMWs in the first race, and they were really rapid. So yeah, I was a bit frightened. But after 2 or 3 laps, I saw that I can hold the gap. But nevertheless, the circuit is always good for any mistakes. Like for me in the first race, that was really a shame. But yeah, I think all in all, it was a quite chilled second stint for me, but yeah, still with a bit sad eye because of the potential penalty. So yeah, a bit disappointed still in the end.
Yeah, absolutely, but you drove very well indeed here today, and so we congratulate you on that. And for now, you are the race winners here in race 2. So congratulations, enjoy the win, and thank you very much for coming for an interview. It's been good to talk to you. So we'll let you go now, but thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you.
There we go, Mats Tug Husveld of the 198 SO team there, joining us after winning race 2 of this one. Now, we'll have one more interview as well with the Pro-Am winners of race 1 and 2. Ibrahim Alia has joined us now from that team. Project Dynamic back to winning ways here, Ibrahim. But I want to go over, the Belle Isle whole thing. You didn't have a great race at Belle Isle, but how did you approach this race? Did you approach it any differently since you were bouncing back from a bad race for the first time this season, really? Did you approach this one any differently?
Well, first of all, hello everyone. For sure, myself, I did approach it differently because at the end, the mistake was kind of my fault, and we lost kind of a big lead, in the championship. And for sure, we talked through it, and we just said, we just calm everything down. We race for the points, not necessarily for the win, and we just stay safe like we did for the first rounds, and everything will be all right. And at the end, it did. So everything good.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a good performance from all of you in the end. And considering your championship rivals in the 111 Mag Performance team had a terrible day, they've lost a lot of points on you. How confident are you that you can hold on to this championship lead at the final race in 2 weeks' time? Montreal is coming up. How are you feeling about that circuit and your championship lead as well, which is probably going to be a lot bigger than it was before today?
I'm trying not to think too much about it because, as you can see, as you saw, probably everything can happen in this championship. Everything ranging from us not loading the right setup and having the quali fuel on the race, from people getting disconnected from the server. So, yeah, we just take the races one by one, and if we happen to win the championship at the end, it's gonna be all good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we wish you luck with that. But first of all, enjoy the victory here tonight. You've driven once again absolutely fantastically. Everyone at Project Dynamic. So congratulations to you, and thanks for joining us for an interview.
Yeah, thank you guys. Bye.
There we are, Ibrahim Alia of the number 21 Project Dynamic team joining us there for a quick interview. And a big thanks to both him and Mats Tug Husveld as well for joining us after the race. But that is just about going to do it for the IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series here at Brands Hatch. We hope that you have enjoyed the show here this afternoon. It's been 2 very, very good races once again. I've been Yoda Louis alongside Nolan Redpool. Ryan Bauer has been behind the cameras here once again. Thanks very much to everybody who's joined us here tonight. We're going to be back again in 2 weeks' time with the final 2 races at Montreal. We hope you join us then. But for now, it's goodbye.